Something you hold
Something that you
without.
can't demonstrate, correct, like the moon landing. Yes.
Well, the moon landing was documented, had evidence, it
Yeah,
had
demonstrate.
Russia tracked it.
Something that you can't demonstrate.
Well, this is what gets
Demonstrate.
into the that's what gets into the more nuance. Like some of these guys, I don't disagree with some of what they're saying. Like the term flat Earth does have a certain stigma, and people don't really even understand. Like, because even if you say like planar, stationary, like they may not even really understand. They think of like a disc floating in space or whatever, or they might think of like, oh, the ancients who didn't know anything, whatever kind of conceptions they might have. But most people just only think of it as a ridicule thing, or like, oh, that's so against what we're told. Then et cetera. But they don't even really probably understand like getting into like the empirical and how do they really know it's a globe and why do they really even think it is, or why did they really have that judgment in the first place, which links it back. Like I just want to say this, like Pinky or anyone else, in terms of this, like the stigma against flat Earth, as it were, is that a genuine stigma because it's not, the idea, it's that it's not flat and therefore those people are wrong? Is it because that's the idea, like, they're kooky or they think something crazy? Or is it actually like a defense mechanism for the globe lie that because the globe isn't a lie and they want everyone in that belief system, that they've programmed people to ridicule that which is actually true?
When you tell someone that the earth is flat, how are they supposed to picture it?
Well, it's not completely responding to what I said, but that's a separate thing. You want to go on that?
Well, you said one of the things you said is like they think about a disk in space. What else are they supposed to think?
Well, I'm just trying to think of like the most mainstream people that don't know anything about the topic. They may have seen like, or they might think like, wait, so you mean like it's like a disc rotating around the sun out in space? Yeah, they might think that because they already are convinced to think it's a globe. And if you're just saying the Earth is flat, they're thinking globe and then just making globe a flat disc, and they just still think it's in a solar system or whatever. They don't even probably even understand the beginnings of it. So that's what I'm saying. Like some of just the most basic programming that they might have.
But what are they supposed to think it is?
If they had any awareness, the first thing they should think is, oh, you mean the most ancient original cosmology of all of mankind that basically saw the Earth as a massive stationary plane of existence with the heavens above? And they would have a general idea that we're talking about like the floor of the universe, as it were, or the floor of this whole realm. If they had any like semblance of what humanity has known it to be, it was never a disk in space until,
I
you know what I
thought
mean?
you just said like when you say like the flat earth, some people think of some like ancient belief, and now you're saying you want them to think about like this ancient belief.
No, we were talking about a disk in space. Some people might associate the term flat earth with a disk in space. Well, anyways,
yeah, and then another thing you said is some like ancient thing, like some that like people thought a long time ago, and that's not it. But then you said like they should think about some ancient. I don't know.
That's not what I said.
Cosmology is what he.
I said part of the social stigma is that people might think of a disk floating like third disk from the sun. They might take the globe Earth and then just replace that with a flat disk, and then that's why they make those jokes about like an eclipse shows like a flat like coin on the moon or whatever. Like nobody really thinks that. So I'm just saying it's part of the stigma to think it's a disk in space. And you were saying what should they think? And I was saying if they had any semblance of knowing what we're talking about, they would probably think of, like I was saying, all of humanity before the globe that thought of the Earth as a massive plane of existence, not a disk out in space. So if they have that perception, it's a completely programmed false conception that somehow was put in their mind and then, made to think is crazy or to ridicule. And some don't even go that far, disk in space. Some just instantly, because of the programming, would just think that you've lost your mind or think you're crazy because that's the programming, even though they don't really know any of the empirical like arguments or like Cuddles was talking about, like the actual physical reality of things, outside of what they believe.
I don't know too many ancient cultures that thought the earth was infinite, though.
No, they usually had it encompassed in the cosmic egg or like in a sphere, ironically, that were a plane in the center of a sphere. That's the most common viewpoint of it.
Well, I tried to tell the Globers.
The hemispherical region above, hemispherical region below, and we're on a plane in the center, potentially of a sphere, unless it's infinite. But if it's not infinite, then yeah, it might be encompassed in some kind of a spherical or like the cosmic egg or even a toroidal kind of structure. A lot of the ancients seem to have depictions of that.
Mm-hmm. I just don't know what the normal person is supposed to think when someone says, "Yeah, it's a flat Earth." I mean, like, what else? I mean,
Okay, so when you
Well,
when you
they're
read
gonna
the
go off whatever their current understanding of it is, from nothing to a little to something incorrect. But go ahead, Cuddles.
I was going to say that the gas pressure definition that we have in science solidifies the position, right, of the so-called flat earther. It's just a person who's studying physics, really.
No, but we're trying to
You know,
talk about this. We're sort of talking about the social stigma, though. Like, I hear what you're saying. If you actually start inquiring about the topic, that's a whole different story. Because then you start actually learning about what's being said, and then that's the thing that we hear so often, that people go from, "Oh, when I first heard about it, I thought it was crazy, or I thought my friend was crazy, or I thought they lost their mind, or whatever." And but then when that person actually looks into it, they're like, "Oh, it's really not that crazy," and then they start to even maybe question their own globe belief or whatever. So that's if they start looking into it. But we were also just talking about like just the social stigma, just at like the most kind of mainstream level of like writing people off as, linking it with conspiracy theorist or crazy, or lost to touch with reality, or whatever they might think, because I guess they're told it's a globe and everyone is so sure it's a globe that for you to think something differently would mean that you're like out of touch with reality, or that's at least the kind of implication they're trying to put forth. Someone's out of touch with reality, between those two, because they're very different. A sphere in a massive infinite universe rather than a plane of existence with somewhat of a more local heavens above are very different.
Well, I mean, it is a conspiracy theory, right? I don't mean that in a like a
No,
pejorative term, but it
no, I
is.
don't think
It
so.
does require. I don't think so. Do you think you could justify flat Earth belief without invoking global conspiracy?
All right, how about this? Just saying the Earth is a stationary plane, or if you use the term flat Earth, that in and of itself has literally nothing to do with conspiracy. It just is more of a claim of just nature and what is. But if you're going to say the globe is a lie, then yeah, that technically would imply conspiracy, because for the globe to be a lie, that means that people are conspiring to tell us it's a globe. So if I were to break it down in that way, but just like the Earth being a flat in general would not have to be linked to conspiracy, it would just be a question of nature.
doesn't it entail
How is
governments
it-
lying about the shape of the Earth?
But that's if you go to the globe lie part. If you go to the globe lie part, yeah, of course. But if you
Doesn't it
just stay on,
entail governments lying about the Earth rotating?
it implies it, but just in and of itself, you know what I'm saying? Like if I
Same
said, okay, right,
difference.
like right now, like okay, right now, like mushrooms or whatever, like psilocybin, like magic mushrooms, they're technically illegal, right? But and then they tell us like it's Schedule 1, like oh, it has a high probability for addiction, blah blah blah. Well, all that's false, and I think psilocybin is a very healing medicine. So if you were to say, hey, psilocybin is a healing medicine, that could just be a statement on its own. But if someone then wanted to say, well, wait a minute, the government's saying it's illegal, then you could talk about the conspiracy that they're doing to tell us a plant is bad for you when it's not. But just saying that mushrooms are good for you. So in the same way, if someone were just to say like the earth is flat or whatever, that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it implies, because if you know the state of the world, it implies that yeah, there's lies going on because they're telling us it's a globe. But I'm just saying the statement in and of itself is just more of a statement about the actual like cosmographical structure of the earth rather than what humans are saying or promoting. You could have the mainstream promoting something totally false, and you could still just make a claim of what's true, and that would just hold true. Like when they were all saying
Doesn't make any
cannabis like
sense.
fried your brain or whatever, and that was all lies. You could have just been like, no, cannabis doesn't do that. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, like I got 3 black mustache hairs, bro. Go ahead and prove that to be some type of weird belief. Like what? It's just nature.
No, it's
It's just
just
what
that
is.
any government that claims to have a geosync satellite claims that the Earth is rotating, and lots of governments had that. So that would invoke a global conspiracy, just on the stationary part alone. Forget the shape.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll give you two.
it would imply it, like you said, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily
It's a,
state it.
it's a direct entailment.
Well, I got 2
I guess
statements.
so.
They also have the resources to map the flat Earth as well, and they would know that the flat Earth map cannot possibly match up with the globe Earth.
I mean, I know like we're kind of going deep on like the implications of this, but I'm just saying if you were in the jungle in the middle of nowhere and you said to someone, "Hey, the Earth is a stationary plane," it might not imply anything about conspiracies. Maybe that other person is, you know what I mean? But if you're in like the modern era and you know about all the countries and stuff, then it is
Well,
going
you
against
know
what they're
about.
claiming. Yeah.
I
I
agree. I would put it a little differently. I would say if you live in the modern era and you know all the evidence that shows it's a globe, then you'd have to invoke conspiracy to essentially get rid of that evidence that disagrees with the claim that Earth is flat. And my point was
yeah
more was I think about that, but also just saying like does flat Earth have enough evidence that it's flat to just justify itself with evidence? And I mean, I've been here for a while, and I would, my contention would be that not even close.
Well, have you gone out and looked at the Earth?
Yep,
You notice it doesn't have
it looks
curvature?
flat. It looks flat.
Okay. So that's not strong evidence to you?
No, I mean it's evidence. I'm not saying it's not evidence, but because what happens is then a glober would say, they'd say, well, that's what we'd expect for the Earth being as large as it would be claimed, and then I'd go do the math, the geometry of it, and I'd say, oh, that's true actually. I
I
agree. I would put it a little differently. I would say if you live in the modern era and you know all the evidence that shows it's a globe, then you'd have to invoke conspiracy to essentially get rid of that evidence that disagrees with the claim that Earth is flat. And my point was
yeah
more was I think about that, but also just saying like does flat Earth have enough evidence that it's flat to just justify itself with evidence? And I mean, I've been here for a while, and I would, my contention would be that not even close.
Well, have you gone out and looked at the Earth?
Yep,
You notice it doesn't have
it's
curvature?
flat. It looks flat.
Okay. So that's not strong evidence to you? Well, have you gone out and looked at the Earth?
Yep,
You notice it doesn't have
it's
curvature?
flat. It looks flat.
Okay. So that's not strong evidence to you?
Because what happens is then a glober would say, they'd say, well, that's what we'd expect for the Earth being as large as it would be claimed, and then I'd go do the math, the geometry of it, and I'd say, oh, that's true actually. So it's not a conclusive piece of evidence that would prove one way or the other.
Right, but
All right,
neither
well,
is most of your observations. Because one day the Earth is bigger than it is another day, because you can see further on one day than you can on another day. So the Earth changes size depending on how far you can see, because it has to.
or
Yes, that'd be
refraction.
this would be another good point. I would say, because I confess when I watched the documentary in like 2018, and it was like, hey, we see further than we should, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it is true. Like if the Earth has a certain radius, then you should only be able to see so far. So I looked into it and realized that there's a perfectly rational, expected explanation for that.
All right, but hold on. Before we could go on a whole thing about evidences and all that, I was just kind of going on that for one moment because you were saying that, okay, so I was like in that sociology thing, I was coming more from a side of like almost like being out in the woods and you don't have all the social programming. And for someone to be like, hey, the Earth is a stationary plane doesn't really entail necessarily conspiracy or even having to approach all this other claimed evidences. But you were coming at it more from like, in my view, kind of like the modern era where yeah, you have your social security number and your passport and your driver's license, and then brought up in the schools that we're brought up in, and then they claim that all the evidences for the globe are so strong, and then going to the moon and the governments, pretty much all the governments of the world, like Funny was saying, like all think that the Earth is, not in or is in motion. So under that framework, if you're going to say it's not that, then is that what you're saying that it implies that like you then have to address the evidence? Because like you're
Yeah,
implying that we have to
otherwise,
address the globe stuff, whereas like you don't. If you're really living like free thinking, you wouldn't. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, go ahead.
well,
it sounds like what
evidence
he's
for the
saying is
globe.
like actually he doesn't want you to address any of the globe stuff. He just wants you to substantiate the flat Earth.
And things in reality have to be incorporated into this theory also, right? So like we can say satellites aren't real, but we can also directly observe the effects of GPS working every day, things like that that should warrant an explanation at a minimum, right?
Right, but that's a misrepresentation of the claim. See, the claim is that satellites, as you were told that they exist, aren't real. Satellites absolutely exist. It's that which communicates with another thing at a distance, right? Satellite offices. We got repeater stations that would be called satellite repeaters or satellite station because it's off in the distance. It's not near us. It's not local to us. Satellite far away. Real simple.
Yeah, Pafinki, I mean, I think you're kind of going off of like expecting that the burden of proof, like in the modern era, would have to be on the person saying that it's planar and stationary, that they would have to then have some burden to explain your satellite belief. Whereas like it could be that you just have to figure out your satellite belief if you care about what that person said. Like if that person said, hey, the truth is the Earth is planar and stationary, you could try to put the burden on that person and be like, oh, you have to address all this stuff, I believe. Or you could just be like, oh, I believe all this stuff, then maybe I need to rethink this or think why I believe it, Like is the burden in
a
you
better
to figure it out, or is the
might
burden on
be
me?
well, a better example could just be the way we observe the stars, and this doesn't comport with just standard perspective, the way that we see everything else in the world. The sky has looks really globy, and so being here part of the conversation, the flat Earth has created several explanations for that. One of them is the personal azimuthal dome of vision, but you have if you're going to say the Earth is flat and stationary, then you do have to account for what we see in the sky.
But
right?
You see in circles, so that you already have an happening messing with your vision. And good, thank God for me, I only get that when I look up, when I'm laying down on my back, looking up at the sky, I only see in circles. Then the rest of the time, I see in pretty good straight lines with great depth perception. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I contend we don't see in circles. We see according to the law of perspective, and that dictates a certain relationship between things, the size of things, based on how far away they are, and where they appear in our field of view based on how far away they are.
Well, bro, I can take you to a lake where it's like 10 miles across from one, like say the north end to the south end of the lake, right? Take you to the spot where we can clearly see dead between the trees to the other side of 10 miles. You're going to tell me that it's bending because of the way you and your vision are working, which is an issue because I don't have those problems with my vision.
Oh,
But
can
you
I
also
answer
have
something?
to deal with the data, the
Bending?
10 miles, the still lake, the daytime, no visual impairments, no
Cuddles.
pollen. Simple,
Cuddles.
real simple.
Oh, maybe I'm just really
Yeah, no, at 10 miles, I shouldn't be able to see the guy on the other side.
You cut out.
I shouldn't.
Well,
Oh, shoot.
I think you're back, but you cut out for a sec.
He's saying you shouldn't be able to see the guy on the other side, but it kind of depends on the elevation that you're viewing at and the elevation of the person you're trying to view. And
right,
the
if you
amount
guys-
of refraction in the sky.
Let me just say this, and then if we're not going to stay on what we were on before, it's fine. But I thought this kind of started from like the social stigma that like flat Earth has, let's say, because we were talking about that earlier, and then like the amount of social stigma. And then I asked that question, like, okay, is the social stigma valid because like, oh, it's so wrong that it's flat, therefore it's a globe? Like that's one theory that like, oh, therefore the stigma is like valid because all those people are just disconnected from reality. Or is the stigma because there's like a programming, like there's a lie going on that it's a globe, and then they convince everyone who thinks it's a globe to kind of build a wall around the belief and be like, oh, anyone who's going to say that it's not a globe, we're going to have to attack and push them away from society. Because Jake was talking earlier, like it'd be like if it's like harder to get a job, if people look you up and they find that you've talked about flat Earth online or whatever, that's where it all kind of stemmed from. And then I think maybe it broke off into the evidence part because I think Pafinki brought up like, in terms of the evidence for the globe, that he's claiming there's quote unquote so much of it that to say that it's not that implies conspiracy, and then implies that you have to then debunk all of the evidence that's for globe. And then I said, then we started talking about evidence that you can observe yourself. Like, does the evidence you observe yourself actually match the globe? To match that amount of stigma. And this kind of shows it because to bring it all full circle, now you guys are debating the nuances of how challenging, it can be to get people to agree on what we're actually seeing long distance. And then the globe thing requires assumptions and calculations of refraction. So yeah, it kind of like it just links to the stigma being connected to the evidences. And then now that we're getting into it, you go out and look at the Earth, you can see the extended planar nature, and then you have to come up with refraction theories to still have it fit a globe. Yeah.
In that, like the sound was coming from the flame.
Yeah, plasma speaker.
He called it plasma. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Maybe you can buy a Bluetooth one, like a kit.
So there's no like
Like a Tesla coil
tube.
to play music.
A Tesla coil can play music.
Yep. Uh-oh. Tornado signs going off.
Yeah, there's lots of things that people don't. You can run the internet like through your house electricity wires. You don't actually need the internet cable or fiber. You could just run it all through your electricity cables. There's actually no need to have a separate system in your house. You could just run it all through your electric cables for the internet.
Where do I buy it and how much is it?
Yeah. That's where they're ripping us off. And you could have the internet in every room already, every socket in your house. You can basically, there's a device. If you set it up right, then you can just plug in to any socket in your house. You're going to get the Ethernet. Just run it through your power.
Yeah, I've seen that. It basically uses the electrical wiring through your walls to function as Ethernet, to transfer the Ethernet over the actual electrical cables in your wall. It's kind of cool. I've never really tried it, but I know they have those.
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of speeds we talking. Like, this is viable? Like,
How fast is electricity? How fast is electricity?
Oh yeah, it works. I've installed those.
It sounds to me this is more of a modern thing when you're talking about this in modern houses. I wouldn't say that's the case in my old 100-year-old house. Is that kind of where this? What you're saying is that it's more newer houses or what?
Yeah. Any house with electricity, any plug.
That says you can get up to 1 gigabyte per second, 500 megabytes to 1 gigabyte.
Did someone ask how fast is electricity? Did I overhear that?
No.
Well, you're saying what's the speed, right?
The speed of electricity?
The speed of the electric flow is actually like really non-intuitively slow. And it's different than the speed of power propagation down the wire, which is interesting. But I'm pretty sure like for like data purposes, that's why everyone's switching to fiber optic cables so that the information can be sent basically with laser pulses at the speed of light down the fiber optic cable.
So they can have a monopoly and charge you extra when you've already got the wiring for it, man.
So
Yeah,
The fiber optics do that.
Like, can you?
Fiber
Sorry, I was just thinking about a generator. Like, can I just plug it into a generator, or does it have to be like mainline electricity?
I think what the gentleman was talking about. Yeah, sorry. On the main power lines, lines at the top of the power lines is a single thing on its own, and that's the fiber optic cable, right? And power lines. So
power lines are copper wire.
No. You get the power lines, and then there's a single one at the top of the power line on its own.
Oh,
Yeah.
also. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, they have a lot of fiber optic cables in the sea.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that I could plug into my mains in England in the design that I've got in my house and get the Ethernet. I very much doubt that, but that's my personal opinion.
No, you need to get it set up so it's running into your power system first. Once that's done, then you have special plugs that you're going to be able to get receivers for your Ethernet with an Ethernet plug on it. So you can plug it into any socket in your house and plug your computer into it. So you don't need to run separate cables through your house. You've already got the cables there. That's the idea.
Yeah, so you're still going to have your cable modem, your router, whatever, but you're going to plug in a separate Ethernet cable from your router into a jack in the wall, and that jack is going to connect to every other outlet. It's part of the outlet. That jack is going to you could plug into any other outlet with another Ethernet jack in it within your house, is what he's trying to say. But your house obviously has to be wired to be able to deal with it. I don't think you could just...
Well, you're essentially making your house a smart house without having to run extra Ethernet cable. You just need to be able to plug your device into any socket, and you're going to be, running into the smart system.
Right, but the question is, in his 100-year-old house, can he just take the outlet out of his current house and just... Yeah. Oh, really? It works like that? Okay.
Yeah, it just works through the electrics. Yeah, it's AC/DC even.
Okay, there you go. Just get some new outlets and plug them in. Probably don't do it on your own. Be careful, or at least shut off the power.
there are some devices that you can get like off the shelf from Kmart, I think, like what was it? My daughter actually had one. It's like a I think it was just a modem. Maybe you can just plug into any plug, right? And then you can just go about anywhere else in the house and plug in the other device, and it would link up together with it through that system.
It's so trippy to think about. Like every time, like what is happening? How would you explain this to an alien? You know, it's like what this phenomenon is, and you know, people like have such powerful senses of what is good music and it is bad music. And like just imagine it being like, oh man, this guy came along, there's so many billions of us on earth, okay, but this one dude came along and he had like a way of like saying some stuff, but not just saying some stuff, like saying some stuff like with all sorts of extra mouth noises that would be so totally weird if you were communicating that way in regular conversation. But like the way he hit those notes, oh, it's just fucking awesome. And then just like just giant fandom is packing stadiums, you know, oh, but it's not just the mouth noises, they're banging stuff as well, you know, and have these, you know, vibrating strings. And it's just like, I mean, just like imagine actually trying to explain through the phenomenon of the pop star to a being with no context of human society. But hey, maybe they've got their own version of that. Like maybe it actually is really universal. Like I get really interested in looking into what animals respond to music. Like that gets really interesting as well. Because it's like not all animals, but some animals are super into specific types of music. Like monkeys don't really respond to music at all. Mice don't, but elephants love piano. Elephants love piano, and cows love like trumpets and stuff like that if it's low enough. And there are species of birds that love techno music, just completely bopping
Seems
out
like
so
macaws
hard to
really,
techno music.
That's
macaws
awesome.
really like Stevie Wonder.
What?
Parrots like to listen to Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah, no, maybe more than I was aware of. I saw like a cockatoo like raving out to techno. And you can find so many videos like this online, and that makes sense because birds are such kind of musical animals anyway.
Yeah, there's some dancing. Well, they're right. That's their communication base, right? Yeah. So,
but I guess the point is that something that like you could look at this animal and be like, okay, it's got a survival based communication signaling system, right? This is fucking with that. Like this is crazy. This is crazy overstimulation of the system, right? That serves no good purpose from like a strict survival perspective. And yet like they like it, they dance to it, they resonate with it. Like the experience of enjoying particular types of totally impractical for any survival purpose sensory overloads like are fairly universal to like all these different forms of life. Like life forms find ways to create pleasure and play with things and overstimulate themselves in interesting ways that like they never should have encountered in a natural environment. But you know, cockatoos love techno music, so I don't know. What does that tell you about the meaning of the universe?
For sure.
like not every animal understands like rhythm or beats. Maybe
not every animal does though, right? So there's diversity to it, but it is kind of all over the place in the animal kingdom, like not uniformly at all, you know. So it's like, okay, animals are particular, maybe we haven't discovered what type of rhythm this particular species likes, but we keep finding categories of rhythms that vastly different types of animals, you know, resonate with.
Yeah, imagine they start throwing concerts.
Yeah,
they learn how to put some sounds together, some instruments.
And I saw a guy on YouTube who was like taking bird calls and turning them into guitar riffs, like trying to turn bird calls into like metal guitar riffs, which was pretty cool. Goes both ways.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
The album, I think it's like Take Out or Take Five, the Dave Brubeck Quartet. I don't know if anybody knows who the hell they are. They were traveling, I guess, in Southeast Asia. They went to there's so many exotic bird calls that one of the piano players was just writing them down every day. He's like, "Man, this is a hell of a bird over here, dude." I wrote it down. And later they put out albums, you know, using those themes as a primary material. That's neat, right? Not so much. I think Take Five is somehow a bird call. Nobody knows that song. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Why don't dogs like music, like to dance to or something like that? You would think that they'd be really into that.
Huh? Yeah.
I had a dog that sang when I played. He was half Kane, half Pit.
Yeah, they do like to sing. That's funny.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I had one. My first dog did that. But if you were singing, he started singing as well.
Slaves used to rely on music to get through their life.
I must be a slave. Without music, I don't think I would be alive. I really don't.
And just think about the potential music we've yet heard.
I know. Keep making it. it can be very interesting. Some of my most interesting experiences have been when I just like threw myself into something that's just like no experience of whatsoever, just jumped in blind of like friend told me about a concert, wildly different genre than I'd ever listened to. And then one time, while I was in school, a friend invited me to a party, and it was put on by the Southeast Asia or Indian like student club. So it was like all Indian music, like all of, I don't know if you like, listen to a lot of it, but like Bollywood song stuff, and I mean it was fast and kinetic, like everyone dancing to it, and I was like one of the few non-Indian, like three non-Indian people there. I was like, all right, I'm jumping into this. I'm gonna try not make a fool of myself, seeing what everyone else is doing here, but like I think I can get the hang of it.
Surprised enough, I don't hear more people talk about tabla, Indian percussion. Like anytime harmonics comes up or fractal patterns, like basically fractal drumming solos.
You play tablas?
Well, no, I do not play tablas, but I really appreciate tablas.
The whole Indian like understanding of rhythms is like way more sophisticated than like the Western side. Like, you ever hear, like they're like I'm not gonna imitate it, but yeah, there's like ways to break down rhythm like that are the tabla rhythms, but they're in phonological pieces like ta tiki ta tiki ta ta
Right,
ta
right.
tiki ta.
Do they
I
study
did
that
I did
before
do
they
the
even get to
impression.
touch a drum? Like,
The Tiki Tar just reminded me of John McLaughlin and Ravi Shankar. Remember those guys playing together?
It's like they're friends of mine. Yeah, John McLaughlin. Was it Return to Forever? Yeah, lots of. I'm like 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon away from Ravi Shankar somehow.
That's a good one.
I don't think it's doing much for me. And
not with that attitude.
That's a whole thing that's a very like long-lived like cultural thing that they have to play that type of music. I don't even think they talk about it that much either. It's like a really it's a very like monastic type of the sitar players, man.
A friend of mine in the mid 2000s got into it as a percussionist, and within just a few months, he was like, he'd come back, he'd play shows to get enough money to go back and study under the tabla master for as long as he could, till he just ran out of money and had to come back and do shows, and then go back to India.
Wow.
I'm sure he's still doing it and still considers himself like a novice. And it used to be there'd be like a court tabla player way back in the day, but anybody from anywhere could come and challenge him to like a drum battle to try and unseat him and become the new court tabla player, which drove a lot of innovation and cemented like dynasties of good tabla players.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And like those
dueling
those
thing.
Was that?
It'd be kind of like the devil went down to Georgia was going down with the tablas all the time.
Well, like the one story he recounted about a historical battle that was still talked about was like this like young tabla player came and he's going to challenge the court master tabla player. So he sits down and does like 8 hours of every like pattern he knows. It's just all the different ones, like so much variety.
That blows my mind.
But then,
yeah.
And then it was the master's turn to answer that, and he sits down and he plays one pattern, but varies it and never repeats like his variations for 8 hours. Like he was good enough to improv. It'd be like because they're like formalized patterns, but then you put your own kind of like flavor into it by the way you emphasize each of the tones. It's not even really percussion. I mean, it's percussion, but there are notes to it. And yeah, so he played 8 hours of subtle variations of the same pattern and destroyed that poor kid who thought variety was all that mattered.
That's a good story. I like that. They should teach that at music school.
I'm pretty sure this guy graduated from a well-renowned music school and then wound up
there was some hot-headed young tabla player, and he went and he blazed out, right? And
Yeah.
totally, and people were like, "Oh my God, he just dropped crazy beats."
Yes.
That's what I'm here for. That's awesome.
Do you think that this tabla has something to do with the way the Arabs are using the drums as well?
I think no. Just because tabla is so well, unless I'm unaware of some Arabic percussion, but like.
Yeah, I was just thinking about if there have been some sort of cultural exchange over the years. It's like, flamenco. It seems like it's basically comes from the Muslims when they occupied Spain.
Oh yeah.
Seems like America is making the best music in the world, or is
Best.
that like being biased?
They've got the most money behind it, and so everyone gets it jammed down their throats. I don't know if that means it's the best.
I sort of agree because to be able to get your music public, put on radio or TV, played over and over again.
No, my
That's
favorite band
when,
right now, Eden, is Canadian, so I'll tag you with.
Wow. Nice. Thank you.
I'm not saying everyone's gonna like it, but
Kids are gonna love it.
I'm probably gonna have to drive 8 hours to Canada to catch them live.
Sounds like a fun adventure for sure. Have you been to Canada before?
I have. I took a piss in Canada once because I was canoeing on a lake, and the shore to my right was Canada, and the shore to my left was the U.S., and I had to pee, and Canada was closer. I wasn't technically allowed to do. I should not have done that. I should have paddled back to the U.S. side and taken a piss there, but I didn't. So apologies to the great nation of Canada. I snuck in and peed on a tree, and then got back in my canoe.
I'm sure both sides would totally let it go. For sure. I think it's understandable. When a man's got to go,
Yeah.
man's got to go.
Make me paddle all the way back across the lake? No.
Inhumane.
Yeah. There was like northern Minnesota where like the lakes are just endless connected lakes, and then eventually some of them are on the Canadian side of the border.
Well, hopefully you get a chance to visit one day and explore. I'd love to visit all 50 states eventually one day. And I even want to explore all of Canada. I mean, I think traveling is a great thing to do if we all, I think it would be amazing to visit all parts of the world, including the North Pole, the Antarctic, potential ice wall.
There's a mountain in Western Canada that's entirely like there's a lake that just is a ring around the entire mountain, and you can like drag your kayak in and do a lap over the course of a week and a half, like canoeing and camping until you get back to where you started.
That's amazing.
Sounds like where I used to live. On the
Oh,
First
for
Rock
sure.
Lake.
But
Yeah, we lived. That was where the reservation was that I stayed on for years. It's yeah, it's the whole water system. We have rivers, tributaries, and all, and you can tear out and go for days until you make it back around again.
oh man, that's an epic thing to do. Canoeing. Wow.
Oh no, the trip we took, we didn't
Robotic.
canoe. We were on a motorboat, dude. Yeah,
Nice.
we were shitting in high cotton, so to speak. It's, my stepfather was a wealthy individual.
Okay, so if there's a creator, and imagine all the gold and stuff that he put here, he probably has it elsewhere, like in heaven. But anyways.
It's a heavy substance. It's tough to get up.
Oh, great point.
I was told heaven, the streets are paved with gold in heaven.
Right, that's what I've
And
heard.
at one point, a teacher even took it so far to claim, I don't know why she decided this is not based on anything. I should have asked her. She's like, no, it's going to be so pure that you can see through it. I'm like, as a kid, I was like, that's not how metals work, dude. Where'd you get that from? Okay.
Oh yeah. Individual license.
Yeah. Streets paved with gold just sounds like a safety hazard.
Yeah.
You definitely need sunglasses all day, every day.
Yeah, I heard copper for like the handrails and the doorknobs are great because supposedly the electrical charge can break the membrane of certain bacteria.
All bacteria.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's antimicrobial. Hostile to life growing on it.
Yeah, so like imagine if we were to implement more metals around the cities, that'd be kind of cool. Let's say there was an unlimited budget. You could just whatever you needed, you could just build your city out of like the perfect metals and or whatnot, glass.
Well, you got your transition metals, your noble metals, and they all have their own certain qualities and properties to them. You know, because like grandmother, she wouldn't break out the silverware unless the company came over. And maybe that was to prevent germs, or what we would call germs today.
That's because polishing it afterwards was a pain in the ass. Keeping it shiny was not worth the effort, except for on special occasions.
Imagine build. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh shit! I was just going to fill up the blank. I was going to say, yeah, I worked with uh, some of the metals, and my wife, she's a master welder, so she worked with a lot of stuff that I didn't, like TIG and stuff.
Like in Flashdance? The welding part. Only the welding part. Forget it.
Female master welder. That's pretty cool.
Unusual. Very cool.
Yeah.
I was just thinking a moment ago. Imagine building so tall you can see the Earth curve, and the penthouse suite that'd be the most expensive because it's just the right height to see curve.
There's a maximum limit of how high you can build before the foundation of the building starts to melt from the pressure above it and just return to magma. I think it's 2 kilometers. It's not as high as you would think either.
Wow.
So
Thank
you
you.
can't even build as tall as the Concorde, huh?
Darn.
You'd have to go higher than the Concorde, though.
A Concorde jet?
Yeah. Like to see if there was a curve, you'd have to go higher.
Oh,
than
okay.
Did you get to travel in one?
Concorde's got that deceptive height where it's like everything looks flat, and then people tell you that can't happen. But
was it that much higher? What was the Concorde cruising altitude?
Off the top of my head, I should have
60,000.
I don't know.
I'll take a look. Maybe it was like 50,000.
Oh, 50.
That's my guess.
Is it that high? I don't think it's quite that high. Oh, no, it might be. Yeah. No. Yes.
Load it up.
It's about there. But that's what gets me. Anytime I've been very high up.
60,000. Oh, sorry. Just did a quick, yeah, quick Google.
Thank you.
That doesn't feel like a definitive, like that's where it always flew. It could cruise at 60,000 feet. Yeah, but what did it cruise at on the regular?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good
the
question.
maximum cruising altitude. So
could it be 55, 57, 50? Who knows?
Yeah, something like that.
That's
I don't know.
high.
60,000 is fine.
I guess we're never getting a building that high.
When I used to travel.
No, it's one of the reasons that mountains can't grow to infinity either, because they get too heavy to be supported by the ground. So
They didn't grow to infinity, but there were mountain ranges taller than Everest is today in what is now North America.
Yeah. But I'm not sure how tall they estimate it could be before the ground.
There was a Reddit. They did the math post just last week that what is the maximum possible mountain on Earth?
What would have been the North American Everest if it were still as high as it was.
The Appalachians are just the little nubs that are left after all of that getting weathered away. So they say. So it would have been eastern. It would have been where the Appalachian Range is now.
Is it Svalbard is also like a top of a mountain? All those like little chains out there. I wonder if they were higher. They're underwater basically.
I don't know how they determine the oldest stone, but I was reading something where they're claiming the oldest stone is in northwest continental North America.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. It's in Canada, they claim.
Well, see, when I was young, and I was taught that we killed off the megafauna. We hunted them to extinction, but it doesn't make any sense because the what we found in the permafrost, where most of them remains were found, it's like they were flash frozen. It wasn't just their stomachs that had the food intact, and it wasn't even digested yet, but it's still in their esophagus and shit. Some of it was still. They found a couple with mouth in their mouth still, and the tree with the leaves were green. And then they find these big giant pile of mammoth bones piled up in the north, like Siberia, Alaska, northern Canada. Well, anyway, that wasn't us. There's no signs of human predation on or harvesting in those great piles. Not to mention,
We're not saying that we killed literally all of them, but the pressure applied by humans hunting eventually whittled them down. It's not like we wiped them all out in a day.
Yeah, but the supposed population doesn't add up.
But I think we need to take into account the climate change as well.
That was my point of how fast it must have been. It wasn't a slow go.
Well, yeah, but imagine if you were a mammoth and you were stuck in the mud somewhere, and the temperature drops down to, I don't know, 40, 50 centigrades below zero. It doesn't take long before you die due to the cold.
Yeah, I was talking about being flash frozen, which is what they're saying occurred for them to be captured in situ with food. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, even if it took a day or two, with those low temperature, I don't see that impossible to happen.
Not at all.
Yeah, like microbiological activity. If it's in an environment or a climate where the temperature is below zero, like the degradation of the flesh and everything would be hugely retarded. It's like putting a piece of meat in the freezer. It will keep for months and months and months, and so then you get more snow and blizzards and sedimentation or whatever was the climate at the time, and then you've got yourself a frozen mammoth. So it's not necessarily flash frozen like we would put a steak into a blast freezer and freeze it in 3 hours or an hour. That I think that's feasible to happen over months and months, probably, maybe years.
I think I've seen videos like from really, really northern Russia where like something happened. They're like, "Oh, it's crazy, everything freezing," and there was like a cat. It was just like fucking standing like in.
Well, they have fish in situ, fish eating fish that were frozen that were already in the water. But yeah, it could have taken a long period of time for that to occur.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's just crazy, weird shit that we can't explain. That's really the bottom line. Like, there's just like they find stuff, and we go, "What the fuck happened there?" And then someone will come up with a theory as to what happened there, and that's the best we got.
I just posted like a pyrite cube, like that somebody could have uncovered in some whatever sandstone matrix or something like that, and they would have just found a cube. I mean, that's how they are, right? How fucked up do you think that would have made somebody to be like, "Why are there cubes, guy? Like they're perfect fucking cubes. What? Why?" They would have had no good explanations for this, I think. Like, if you have no good explanations, don't you just have to make some shit up? You're like, yo, this is apparent. Yo, fucking this shit is everywhere. We have no good ideas. Like, should we make some shit up so we can explain it to John? He keeps asking us damn questions about it. We don't know what's going on.
Absolutely, Snacks. That's what happens, bro. Like, go back Tepe. I mention it often. They say, "Oh, it looks like it was deliberately buried by the people that built it." Maybe it was. Shit, maybe there was a big sandstorm. Who knows? But they just make shit up to try and, unless they find a tablet that says, "We are going to bury this like a time capsule or to protect it from something or whatever." The rest is just speculation and imagination and best guess, call it what you like, but
this
it's
this
it's
artifact was
fascinating. So
clearly
that's about it.
ceremonial. Like, when they don't know what it was, must have been ceremonial.
Well, yeah, ceremonial, or it was celestial, or it was fucking maybe it was a science laboratory. Who knows, bro? Like maybe it was ceremonial, but we don't know. Shit.
Yeah, trying to guess.
Maybe it's how they studied the stars. They built this shit that lined up with solstices and galaxies and the Pleiades or
Star
whatever.
system.
We don't
Sirius.
have a clue what the fuck they were doing back then.
Not a clue, man. We got earthworks all over the place. Over in England, all the way the States over here, we got them everywhere. Not to mention what we call pyramids, ziggurat, etc., etc. And we get to wonder places like Laurel, Tiwanaku. Where were these places? We got remnants.
Where were
of
these
shit.
places?
Yeah, we got little pieces that looks like they might have formed something at some time.
Yeah, I love it when they find like a stone tablet or an old library of stone tablets that they say is 3,000 years old, 4,000 years old, and it's actually got shit on it that we can decipher. That's the only real window into what was going on back then, in my opinion. Whether it's local laws or marriage contracts or what all the stuff they say that they find. That's fascinating because that's like first-hand account. There's some old guy sitting in a room somewhere chiseling shit onto a tablet that survives 4,000 years. And that's cool. The rest
This
of
was
it's
a
just
complimentary Rugrats toy that was designed for ancient McDonald's. This is 4,000 years old.
exactly. That's it. If you can read it, those that know, they know.
The amount of structures and pyramids found in the rainforest via lidar that are just too far away to even get to and buried by jungle, but we can see they're there, and it's just such a massive network of ancient structures that hopefully eventually we get to go poke at them.
They
But
can't figure it out though, like how it got made like that. It's almost like if the jungle was there when they made it, it would have been an engineering nightmare. So
I mean,
but we can't imagine if it was a point where it was an overgrown crazy jungle.
well, a lot of those plants, like as soon as you stop walking on the path and beating them down every day by walking on them, they grow like a foot a week, and they just come back.
Literally, they do. Yeah. And I love all the religious texts. Doesn't matter which one or many of them you can pick. That might be 1,200 years old, 2,000 years old, 3,000 years old. That have some definitive. Okay, this is the word from the God, and this is what the God or the gods say, and this is what's for mankind. But then when you talk about these things, like these structures buried under jungles we can't even get to, shit buried in Turkey that we've only just discovered, which predates all of these texts by thousands of years. How can these texts have any fucking reference to the God who claims to be the superior God when the people that built these jungle pyramids and these buried cities, they had no knowledge of these texts that we've got any record of? It's all just like a crazy. Good luck to anyone actually thinking they've got the answers to this stuff.
I mean, entire civilizations came and went without written language to write any of that shit down. And we'll never know what they did, or like other than what they might have drawn on the wall, but they didn't write language or write it on anything that survived
that we know of. Yeah, 100%. We just don't know.
But are you saying that like a god would have made all those beings and then waited until only very recently in relation to the whole history of time to then give the book from that view?
Yeah. That's the craziness of it is that like all the I'll call them religious texts that we've got, maybe the oldest one we've got a first-hand version of might be 2,500 years old. I don't know, 3,000 even. But these other civilizations we're just now uncovering predate all of that by thousands of years. So, all of these texts claim to. Well, how do I? So let's say your text is 3,000 years old. If Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old, then that civilization predates the text by 9,000 years. But then there's another religion that has a different text that's 1,200 years old, claiming it's the text, the text. Then another religion's got one that's 4,000 years old that says it's the text. But the people in that jungle, that buried jungle civilization that we're just uncovering somewhere under the mud in the Amazon, how would that civilization know about the text of the god from Tibet, for example? Like that's only 3,000.
Well, because like what you speak of, and I found it in Zoroastrianism, you have this figure Ahura. Well, in South America, it was Ashura. In the Far East, it's Asura. There's a lot of commonalities.
Wouldn't it be implied, like, if you have a creative intelligence that is the one creating all of these traditions, wouldn't it imply that the actual source is beyond all of these, since it created all of them?
Yeah, and I'm cool with that, Gio. I'm totally fine with that. But it's where each of them claims to be the definitive, the superior, the only true one. Yeah, there may be some overarching, ultimate, whatever, but none of these seem to recognise that. They all want to claim high ground, or we're correct and everyone else is a heretic or a demon or a whatever label they want to put on it.
Yeah, it's like Shia and Sunni Muslims, and how many Christian denominations are there on earth? There's about 45,000 or so.
40,000?
Yeah,
something
we
like
all,
that.
Unreal.
yeah, we should all claim to have the correct interpretation and understanding of it. So yeah, I'm not surprised that religion does that. More or less everything does. I mean, politics, ideology.
Well, organizations is what the way I see it. The organizations that are run by people.
Yeah.
People.
But what
That's the
about?
problem.
Okay, so let's just start with one God, and then we can go on to two gods, or we can start with two gods. If there's two gods, would they have matching rules, or would they say one God say I'm gonna, and they're equal, maybe 50-50? I don't believe in that. I believe that there's one God, and He has one set of rules for everyone. But I think what is happening, people are making their own rules because they think theirs are superior. But just because they think their rules are superior doesn't make it the truth. Because if there is a creator, he would certainly have his own rules, and unless they align, I don't know if they can both be the truth at the same time.
Yeah, but these traditions are different. Like Eden, would you say that Christianity or something aligned with the biblical is the one only true way in general, the one only true God, the one only true rules, all that in general? Because I have a follow up. Is that what you generally think?
I think so. The question from my research so far, yes, I think the ultimate teachings come from Jesus himself. I haven't seen anything superior. If anyone,
well, I guess well, I wasn't trying to debate what is the best one or whatever. I was more just saying that like if your viewpoint is that, or if other Christians tend to say that theirs is the one and only way kind of thing, but in like Buddhism, for example, they don't necessarily claim that theirs is the one only valid path. Like I'm not saying that they downplay, in terms of like the path of like, enlightenment or to like achieve nirvana, like liberation from suffering. Like that's why like in Buddhism, it's not nearly as like, they're not as much proselytizing. It's not to say they don't share the teachings or have centers or have ways to assist people and so on, but I think it's more of like more through attraction rather than promotion, like that, like people are attracted to it and so on rather than it being promoted as much. And that's obviously, it's a more generalization because there could be some Buddhist folks or something who might be more, have that style in their personality. But I'm just saying that like Buddhism doesn't necessarily claim it's the one and only way for everyone. So it's not the case that they all claim that, if you're talking about all the different religions.
I'm so sorry.
Because it's like a wisdom path to transcend and to evolve as a soul. So it's more like in a way, it's more of a pathway that you can engage in. But they have I think, in my view, kind of a wisdom, realizing that everybody has their own path, as well.
A path to where? Okay, let's imagine for a
to
moment.
Transcendence, to liberation from suffering, to achieve nirvana eventually.
Yeah, so I think this could devolve into a Buddhism versus Christianity debate, which I don't know, Gio, if that's where you wanted it to go.
I wasn't. I was just saying that they don't all say that theirs is the one and only way. Was really what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. And then on top of that, then you've got Islam, you've got Baha'i, you've got Taoism, you've got shaman and American Native, you've got Aboriginal spirituality. There's so many what you would call religious paths or concepts in the earth. So if there is a creator who had a set of rules or a thing which he wanted adhered to, what the hell? Why is there not a relatively uniform, relatively agreed upon version of this? Why is it all so different, so conflicting, so
I have a theory.
Adversarial? It just baffles me.
I have a theory. If you don't mind me asking, it sounds like you're from Britain. I'm half British.
I'm Australian.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Okay, my apologies. Okay, so What about this though? Just imagine this for a moment. In Australia, years and years ago, there were people telling you information about reality, and they lied to you let's say they gave you a science book. They gave you all the scientific information that says this is how it happened and this is the way it is for 1,000 years, and then they weaponized it against Australians, all of them, where they extorted money. And now information came out after 1,000 years of extortion. What they were writing and sharing with the Australian population was completely false, because a new book came out, a new science book that says, oh, actually, that information is totally outdated. In fact, they knew about it and they lied, and this is the real science. A lot of Australians would probably be upset. And then okay, now imagine the people who were giving you the false science book for 1,000 years, all of a sudden says, okay, I got a new book. Do you want to trust the people who lied to you for 1,000 years? Probably not, right? So I think that's what's happened with essentially the Bible. When they realized that the truth was out, kind of like flat earth, what they did was they took a two-pronged approach. They put on their Christian hat or disguise, right? Because they were disguising the whole time. They disguised the book, but now they were disguising themselves as wolves in sheep's clothing. So they put their disguise back on as we're the Christians, but we don't believe what the Jews taught. We believe that the earth is moving and the earth is a globe, and this is our official position. And this was the Vatican. And then they hired, they infiltrated actually every aspect of reality, entertainment, all fields of entertainment, video, music, art. And then they hit the academics, so they get science. And then while they're sitting back thinking, posing to the world in the disguise that they're Christian, they're meanwhile hiring all the experts to give you 1,000,001 reasons why not to trust that science book that the other side released, because they want everyone back under their basically mind control. So I think that's what's happening today, and we're basically
okay. There's a lot there, but I want to rewind. We meandered around a bit, but I want to rewind you right back to the beginning of what you said, bro. Imagine if there was these people that lied and did what you just pretended that they were something, but they're actually a different version of it. You actually described the beginning of the Christian church, because that's exactly what Paul did to Judaism. Pretended to be, he was a Pharisee, and then he came up with his own version, his own splinter narrative. It changed all the rules that broke away from Judaism. It's like Judaism 2.0, except you don't have to follow the law. You don't have to follow the dietary regulations. You don't have to circumcise yourself. He did exactly what you described, and yet you're in favor of following his teachings. He is the antithesis of the religion he came out of. So he is that thing you just described.
I'm not following Paul so much. I'm still researching, but that's totally irrelevant. I'm talking about, like, in Australia. Imagine there was a company, or like NASA, offering a science book about reality, and then they basically were exposed, and then but the truthers shared you the actual reality and offered science towards that. But now NASA, they come back and says, no, we have a new version of the science book that actually supersedes whatever this counterculture like flat Earth is saying.
What is this an analogy for?
So what is the question? What is the question exactly? Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
What are you focusing in on?
Well, I want to give you an analogy.
And leave it. You should leave out NASA, because hang on, because science books came to Australia long before NASA came along.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it historically. The story of the
this was a hypothetical.
Aborigines in Australia is what, 40,000 years old. They have their own view on life and cosmos and religion.
I totally agree. But I totally agree with you, but I was trying to walk him through an analogy of, should you trust someone that lied to you for 1,000 years?
But who was that in the analogy?
Yeah, well, what are we aligning this with, Eden? Tell me.
Who is it?
Oh, so who is this analogous to? Like, who is it? Well, essentially, that's what I'm saying.
Well, like I thought, just real quick, like I thought in general, like if we go off somewhat of the mainstream story, you have like, they claim shamans going back, even like 60 to 100,000 years. And it's not really a religion, but it's a set of practices and spiritual tools and so on. You have that. And then there's like the Australian Aboriginals. And then there's like the Vedas, the Vedics, and so on and so forth. And then you have like the Hindu and Buddhist that eventually are kind of related to the Vedic line. And then you have Christianity, Islam. There's all these different ones, and they're claimed to be at different times. So are we like back like 2,000 years ago at what you're talking about, where there was a lie and then someone came along with the truth? Or I'm just trying to understand like where the analogy is, where you're lining it up.
No, this is okay. First of all, thank you, Gio, so much for that. Essentially, this was a hypothetical that is, in my opinion, has happened in the past. But this is a brand new hypothetical that's never existed. I'm trying to walk you guys through a scenario if you should trust the people that lied to you for 1,000 years. And I'm arguing that you shouldn't. For instance, if
no, that's why like the globe came along around the same time Christianity, so I have some questions on that.
Well, okay, so
and it could be the same people. I don't think all Christianity is alive, but I think there could be parts of it are. So I question Christianity being the number one religion that's pushed on people, and most people haven't even read the book or don't even know about it, but they just follow it. And then you have the globe, which is the same thing. They don't even know what the radius is or anything, and they just follow it. So I'm definitely skeptical of the timing and how those seem to be related.
For sure. So essentially, this hypothetical scenario that I just tried to outline for you guys is directly analogous, in my opinion, from my research, what happened to the Bible. Essentially, the Bible is a historical and scientific set of books that outline, like I said, history. People took advantage of it, used it against Europeans for 1,000 years. The truth came out, and then the tactic was, after they were rich by then because they had been extorting people for 1,000 years. So they're back in Rome after being expelled from all these European nations. In fact, the King of England authorized the Bible to be released, and then they tried to kill him, the Jesuits. It's still celebrated today, called the Guy Fawkes Powder Plot, where they literally tried to blow up Parliament. So essentially what happened was, when the book came out, the truth, these guys, and I'm not like, I don't have anything against people who are from Rome or Italy, because I have 4 Italian brothers and they're amazing. I'm just saying an ideology. It's nothing about nationality. This is an ideology of truth versus power. Power involves lying right now in this world. So what happens is, the truth was given to all of the European nations, but so they fled back to Rome, and then they devised the plot to hire a whole military outfit called the Jesuit Order. And you guys are familiar, Gio, remember we were talking about this? So it was a two-pronged approach. They put on their disguise as being the true ambassador of Christianity, which is a falsehood, because they're not doing anything but the Bible says. In fact, they're doing the same thing in the scenario I was trying to tell you. A company that lied for 1,000 years, they were exposed, and then now they're trying to offer you new information, saying not to trust anyone else. Like, are you seriously going to go trust the same people that lied to you for 1,000 years? And that's what I'm saying. The Jesuits are working on the Vatican.
That's a question. Just quickly, we're off track here, though, guys. We're off track because we're trying to figure out, just quickly, Eden, like, you're giving us this narrative about Christianity in the Bible, and that's fine. I get it. It's a bit interesting, but we're a bit off the point in that, okay, you've got the Bible, which you're advocating for, but if I get a Hindu in here, he'll advocate for the Vedas, and if I get a shaman in here, he'll give me his history, and a Muslim will tell me all about Muhammad and why your Bible is corrupted, and someone from Baha'is faith will come and give me their version, and a Taoist will give me why theirs is the real truth, and a Buddhist will explain why the middle way is what's real and true and should be pursued. But you're yet to justify why yours is the one. What's wrong with all these other ones?
Like I said,
excuse me, in your hypothetical, you're doing exactly.
Well, wait, can we just go on?
I have to write things down.
I really want to hear what you have to say too, Stefan, but John just really laid that out. So can we just let Eden respond to that? And then...
I was just going to mention, the only thing I was going to mention was that Guy Fawkes was not the Jesuit. So you see how you rewrite history to come up with
We can go into that in depth if you like. I mean, you're making a claim, but I want you to, you can make any claim you want, but I want to see the evidence. But let's go back let's put a pin on that, please, Stefan. So to answer your question, Ozzy, John, there's going to be people making claims about this and that, about reality. And let's start with, I'll just make 2 points and you can decide for yourself. There's going to be one group, so there's going to be a type that's going to go off into the world to try to spread the truth. And then there's going to be potentially people who want to sit back and maybe do nothing. I think that's a dangerous attitude, because those who do nothing in the face of evil, I don't know. I think there's a famous quote about that. We should try to stop evil if possible. And now to the second point is, if there's no only one way to open a lock. You can have 1,000 different keys, but if there's only one way to do things, such as this one lock to open the door, you can have 1,000,000 keys, but it's not going to open up that lock. You have to have a specific set of parameters to access what's behind that door.
Okay, I roughly know what you're trying to get at, but here's what I'll say. Your Christianity is very late to the game, right? It's only 2,000 years old. So if there is only one key to this lock, what did everyone do prior to Jesus being on the earth? What did the Amazonian native people do 8,000 years ago? What did the people in Turkey do that built Göbekli Tepe? What did they do? Because according to your narrative, there's one key to this lock, but unfortunately that key didn't exist until only 2,000 years ago. So it falls apart, bro. It just falls apart.
Wait. So the key that offers, okay, let's say really quickly, that key, do you know how you got many ups and downs and paths? That key essentially covers everything: creation, rules, judgment, and mercy. I think that applies through all civilization, all the way back to time. But yeah, Gio, did you want to say something? Maybe I heard you say.
Yeah. If you want to continue, I just wanted to briefly say, just real quick, my thoughts, and I'm going to be listening, but I might not be able to be as active on the mic, but I will be listening and whatnot. But I just want to say that, like, maybe just kind of my general view, and then how, like, just to John as well, since you're asking that, and then if you guys want to continue as well. So there's one idea that essentially all of these religions and spiritual systems are at their core some kind of, even if I use that word, awakening, like some kind of an awakening practice to give you more insight into the nature of reality, how to treat others, morality, integrity as a human being, the nature of death, what happens at death or after death, how to deal with suffering, how to deal with all of that that goes along with just life and everything. So potentially all of these are on some level like a path to awakening, if I were to use that term, but they all just do it through different channels and in different ways. And maybe some of them are more complete than others. Maybe some of them are more nuanced or more advanced than others. And then maybe some of them have corruption in them too, where it's gone off, where now it's, turned into a control mechanism or whatever, even though it still has that kind of enlightenment behind it, and there could be corruption. I mean, probably in all the religions today, the mainstream ones, there's probably some corruption, but, so I'm not trying to single any one out, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And so from that view, like, there is something to glean from all of them, but then they all have different nuances and different layers and levels.
Can I point something out, Gio? I've seen some of the literature to do with Gnosticism, but it always brings me back to this syncretism, where they're trying to morph or fuse like a world religion based on like Gnosticism and Kabbalah. And the one thing that I remember from reading some of this stuff, from my brother who had some of this material, I was reading it and I was thinking, look, it gives you something that's useful, that they're actually things you can put into practice. But what it does is it completely misses out all of the traditional aspects that made it what it is. So you might understand a ritual or something, but you don't understand the meaning behind it.
Yeah. Look, maybe the other thing, Gio, I'd like to add to what you're saying. I agree. It seems that all the major paths that one can take, if you take the purest version of them that hasn't been overtly corrupted as a mechanism of control, they all do seem to have that common thread of morality, kindness to one another, doing good, being generous, taking care of the downtrodden, and trying to grow as a person to be a better person, and recognize, self-reflect, recognize your failings. All those things do seem to be some level of commonality between all of the ways and all of the paths that are on offer. But then it seems that along the way, each version of it has introduced, as you say, their own nuance. Some more toxic than others. Some deliberately designed to make themselves the exclusive one that everybody has to be a part of, under threat of eternal damnation or slaughter in the streets or whatever. But that general thread of goodness and kindness does seem to permeate through everything. So that I guess would be a connection loosely back to one, well, maybe one entity has seeded that within all of us. I don't know, just some ramblings, but
No. Okay, but the thing is, you're right. But what you're focused on is in the afterlife. I think there's a lot about now that is important and requires Christianity. Once again, Christianity brought an end to slavery in England, and it would bring ends to the slavery again today. But the thing is, it's nice that we have peaceful religions out there like Hinduism, Buddhism. But the problem is we have actively psychotic religions out causing a serious amount of pain to people in the world. And as Christians, and maybe even non-believers, it's, I think, imperative that we stop these dangerous religions that are spreading, such as Satanism, because I think Satanism has crept into the highest echelons within governments, and then also potentially other false religions like potentially Islam. And thank you.
And like Christianity was that dangerous, toxic religion for hundreds and hundreds of years. Under the Roman Catholic Church, it invaded countries, and that church, they know we didn't do it, but they were arm in arm with the royal the governments of Italy and Spain, and they were out conquering and marauding and pillaging and forcing people to convert at the end of a spear tip, and just doing heinous things, stealing, destroying cultures, just. They were the toxic religion that you speak of. Right now in 2026, you will look at other religions as being that, and I understand because right now other religions are that thing. But your religion was that for hundreds of years. Are you cognizant of that?
I am, but I don't think that's fair at all, because what these other religions are doing are following their book. But what you're claiming are the Christians of the past, who I'm telling you do not listen to the Catholics. They were the same ones hiding the Bible for 1,000 years, and now you're thinking they're Christians? That's the problem. These Christians or Catholics have hired the experts to get you to not trust the Bible. Why do you think? How do you think that?
But even, hang on, even as recent as a couple of hundred years ago, the Southern Baptist Convention was using the Bible to justify the American slave trade and the ownership of slaves in Southern America. So this is not some ancient relic from millennia ago. This is very recent history. And yes, you'll quote that William Wilberforce, the wonderful British Christian guy, was at the spearhead of the anti-slave movement, but there were lots of secular people who were against slavery as well. He didn't just single-handedly overturn slavery on his own on behalf of Jesus. Like, it's a much broader picture than that, bro. The Bible endorses slavery.
What I was gonna. Okay, well, that's a whole topic in of itself. The Bible and slavery. You just said it endorses it, so that could be unpacked in its own thing. But I wanted to say too that there is the potential idea too that in any of these traditions you can have like the real deal, and then someone who's like a
counterfeit,
a fraud, basically. Yeah, like some kind of like a fake version of it. Like, I think, in that sense, like, are you really following, like the actual higher octave of it, like the actual positive, loving, all of that versus, some kind of like corrupted or even like fraudulent kind of version, where they're using it for evil or whatever. And that happens in like a lot of different traditions. Like even in the shamanism that I'm interested in, there's real shamans that give the right plants and the right medicines and so on. And then there's some fake ones, and they're charging money and people are going to South America and sometimes they're getting, robbed or hurt in some way. Like they're criminals, they're not real, but they sell themselves as real. So I'm just saying there could be that. And people talk about like, even with Christianity, like a real Christian versus, fake Christian or whatever, people throw that around. So I'm just saying that that's something to consider too, is that just because someone's like doing something wrong in the name of any one of these traditions doesn't really mean the tradition is necessarily faulty, just because that person is using it in some corrupt way, themselves. But the other question, just to finish the question you brought up though about slavery in the Bible, yeah, I do find that to be highly problematic, because I think there's just like in the current Bible that we're given, there is just things that I know for myself, like for a fact, are immoral. So that means it can't all be correct. So something's going on with that to where they changed it, I think.
Okay, could we create a version of slavery that everybody would be happy with? Because it seems like we live in a slave culture still.
I don't think it's right to ever buy another human. Like, I don't think that's ever right to own or to buy another human in any way. If it's a work relationship, that's different. Yeah, if it's a by choice, that's different. But slavery.
Can we debate that? Maybe I'll help you change your mind.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
It sounds like that's where John was. I mean,
oh, bro, look.
Is there one that's the one true way? We were on the is there one that's the one true way? If you guys want to transition to this. I mean,
no, look, I'm happy with either conversation, Gio. The thing is that you're going to invent a fictitious version of slavery, which is nothing more than a birth child of your imagination, and then try and superimpose that maybe onto what might have been happening 3,500 years ago in the Levant. I don't think that's an argument that's got legs. Do you know what I mean? Like it's what if it was this? Well, it doesn't say that it was this. It sounds terrible if you read the pages. People getting beaten, getting sold.
Slavery is a step up from death, because if you think about it, in Africa, they used to kill the tribe. When they had a war and one of them won, they used to kill the opposition. Then they decided to change that and take them as slaves. So I don't know if it's any better, but
it's really insane. Yeah, capturing humans and stuff. I view it's just
There's nothing.
You can't leave them. They're your enemy. You can't leave them there alive, because they'll just regroup and come back and attack you. So what are you going to do with them once you've had a war with someone?
What I'm hearing,
Eden, you tend to say that, well, we are sort of slaves today, owned by companies we work for and so on and so forth. No, you can leave the company. You go home in the afternoon to your family.
We're actually we're still in the Judeo-Christian slave system. Ultimately, there's some.
We just don't get beaten up. We don't get beaten up if we misbehave.
Well, see what I mean. My overall take I've mentioned on Christianity, I think that there were some ancient like mystical writings, like some of the poetry, some of the beautiful wisdom in there, and then they took that and they added a bunch of stuff to it and turned it into this thing where like the Son of God, and then you have to worship the Son of God, and then He died for your sins. Like, to me, that's all added. And then the slavery thing and everything else that goes in there, I think that was all added too. Like, these are just men that want to control people. And I'll just mention too, like, I mean, it says in the Bible certain things that, and this is just my opinion as well, but if you do something wrong, you'll be put to death. So I personally think it's wrong to put someone to death, like capital punishment. Yes, people do very horrible things. Yes, we have to do something about that person so they stop doing these things to other people. I'm not a fan of prisons, but you do need to like quarantine people that are very dangerous and help them, whatever. But I still don't think it's right karmically to kill someone. And that's just another thing. Like in the Bible, it basically says like if you do this, you'll be put to death. If you do that, you'll be put to death. That's just, to me, that's humans trying to control people and not like real inspiration.
Okay, yeah, I got you, Jill, but we're so far away from slavery now. And why don't, okay, I offered a challenge that we could change your mind. And it's like, are you up for the challenge or no?
Go for it. I'm up for it.
Okay, because
I've got about 20 minutes left in the car, so you go for it, Eden.
I'll do my very best as a defense attorney. Even if I don't believe this, I have to defend my client to the best of my ability to honor them. Okay, so Gio, I heard you say two things. You said it's bad to capture people. Did you say that just a moment ago? Gio?
Yeah, he did. You're not allowed to do that in the Bible. You can buy them, but you can't capture them.
I'm away from my mic for a second, but I do have to kind of be away from it, but I will be listening. But just to respond real quick, yeah, I was saying it's like wrong to like capture or to own other people or to buy other people. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So wait, those are two different options, to capture and to buy, and I'll explain why. One, let's say, because this still happens today, there's child sex slavery, there's adult sex slavery. These people are under the power of someone else. Now, what are you going to do? Capture, in your own words, capture them from these oppressors? Yeah, you can do that, but maybe that'll make them angry and then maybe cause war. So it seems like another option, instead of capturing and stealing from them, is to use your resources to buy these people. So it seems like that's a better option. Would you agree?
And then what do you do with them? You're going to release them straight away?
Wait, are we talking about? I do have to kind of be away from my mic, so but I will say this one last thing, just to, and then John, if you want to continue, because I want to keep listening, but I just can't keep being at my mic. But are you, just to be clear though, are you talking about like, all right, let's say there's like people that are like forced to be slaves in like a mine, like right now, like in a third world country, they're being forced at like a cobalt mine or something, you know, and they're just being as horribly toxic and they're being enslaved. Certainly there's a noble thing to going in there and helping save those people, like set them free or like do something you need to do to stop that from happening. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about being in war and then capturing all of the people that you just raped and pillaged, basically? Like which version?
We'll do the first scenario. So there's people with armed, they're fully armed and well defended, and they have some sort of operation selling humans, all ages. Now, you can go and fight them. You can bring some weapons, and I think you're against killing. So, I mean, you could try to steal them, but that's probably going to involve people dying. I mean, you can kill them all one at a time. Like maybe there's some people who are kidnapped themselves, because generally they'll hire people to do their dirty work. So sometimes there's even innocent people at gunpoint having to work for them. So are we going to kill everyone who's guarding them? We don't know the context. So sure, you can try to.
So that's not ideal. Yeah, we'll all agree that's not ideal. So you've now got Plan B, I assume.
Yes.
But what if they're not for sale? What if you can't buy them because they want them as workers?
Let's sidetrack a bit. Let's just stay on course for now. We'll come back to it.
I love that question, Phil, about, and I'm so glad you're here.
Plan B.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Trouble, how are you?
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Okay, and everyone. So yeah, I guess just Plan B would probably negotiate. I think that's what probably why the Bible said that is probably a better scenario than to capture. If you can, ideally, you buy them and then talk to these people, give them the truth, and maybe they'll realize, because maybe they're atheists, maybe they don't believe in God. Maybe
Yeah,
they
but are we talking?
Eden, hang on.
Are we talking about setting people free? Are we talking about buying them?
Exactly.
Are you talking about buying them just to set them free, or are you talking about, like, the stuff in the Bible it sounds like it's more about buying them as your like work slave kind of thing, and a lot like chattel slavery in some cases. And then they talk about you can beat your slave, but you can't kill them. And if you kill the slave, then they'll kill you. But otherwise, you can beat them to a bloody pulp. Like, because that's not just like, hey, I'm freeing you. That's like, hey, I'm going to beat you to work for me. Like, that's pretty dark and evil, in my view.
Yeah, Eden, please. Like, you and I have touched on this subject previously. I beg you, bro, go and read Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. Read all three of them slowly and carefully, and you will see that these scenarios that you put forward do not even vaguely represent what's in the book. Not even in the same postcode as what's in the book. The book is about buying people. It's about owning them. It's about passing them down to your children as an inheritance. It's about entrapment to get a man to stay your slave, even though he could have gone out free in the year of Jubilee. You can basically trick him into being your slave forever, because if you give him a wife and he has children, the wife and children, they have to stay with you even though he can go free. But if he wants to stay with his wife and his children, he can then commit himself to you for the rest of his life, and you put it all in his ear, and then you him forever as well. The slavery that is in those books that I've pointed out is nothing like what you are presenting here.
I totally disagree, because I think you left out one important book, which before that slavery you're talking about is Jacob, the father of Israel. His own son Joseph was a slave who was sold into slavery by his old brother, and that's in Genesis. So I think we actually have to take all of the books, and if you take it in context, then I think you see the bigger picture. And you maybe
Well, give me some context then. What's Joseph got to do with any of that?
I think the problem is that Eden in some way has to fight with his own moral to justify that it's the Bible kind of slavery is not immoral. That's the problem, because he has a starting point where God is always good, which means this has to be explained away one way or the other. So it's a hopeless discussion, basically.
Yeah, it's like Eden. I said, I like you, man. You're a sweet guy, but I think you got hog this here.
It's only, hold on, I have to address one point at a time. I can't have two people make a quick statement about me and then I can't address it both. Thank you. So if you want to say it's hopeless, then there's no point listening. If you like, I think you just maybe, I don't know why you would say that, because I don't think any conversation is hopeless. If you have the truth, you should be able to share that and maybe change someone's mind, and that's what I'm trying to do. But if you're not interested, like, I don't know, that whole comment about me was necessary. We're talking about the topic itself. And go ahead, Ozzy.
Are you willing to change your mind regarding slavery in the Bible? No, you're not.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead.
But be honest. Be honest, Eden.
Okay, let me just pick up there. So you've dragged Joseph into it, and I'm very familiar with Joseph's story. I'm struggling to see how that helps your argument in any way. You know, you're very welcome to show me. You know, we've got a bit of time still, but I've pointed out 10 or 15 versions of slavery in those 3 books, which are heinous, horrendous. They involve subjugation and trickery and violence and just all manner, like sexual exploitation with young girls, parents selling their daughters into slavery. Like, it is just one thing after another, after another, after another, that if you and I were talking about anything other than the Bible, you would agree with me that all of these things are terrible.
But, okay, I totally disagree, and I'll need to defend it. Okay. But I'll need the space, and I'll try to be brief. Okay.
Sure.
In summary, essentially what we're doing is I'm a lawyer and you're a lawyer. You're defending your position. I'm defending my position. I'm not necessarily in one camp or the other. I'm just trying to defend it objectively for what it says. It's not. These aren't my opinions. I can share my opinions, but essentially what I think is there's going to be your opinion. There's going to be my opinion, and then your opinion might be the truth. My opinion might be the truth, but there might be a third option, the truth. So I encourage everybody not to believe my opinion or what I'm sharing, or definitely consider what Ozzy is saying, because he's done his research, but I want you to also do your own research, because I think that there's going to be a lot more to these, maybe the context than what John is saying. For instance, NGO, I heard you say that you can beat your slave to death. No, if someone loses a tooth or an eye, there's to be set free. And I want you guys to remember, there was a slave culture outside of and before what Israel said is right and wrong within slavery. And I think if we go into the details of the Jewish version of slavery, you guys already agree with me? Buying is better than
Let's go into it, Eden. I'm with you. Let's go into it so we can unpack it. See, I don't want to talk about a narrative about the narrative. Let's go into the scripture and let's read it and let's see what the words actually say.
Perfect. So I already shared a scenario where buying the slave is better than stealing, and I think you both agree. So then you agree with the Bible then?
But the Bible doesn't, well, other than in war, I'm not aware that the Bible says go and steal people. I think it actually explicitly says not to. But in war, you can take young girls captive as booty from the battle. You can distribute them amongst the warriors, like young virgin. Only the virgins, of course. We don't want the ones that have already been with a man. Only the young virgins we're interested in. If you see any little hot young ones that you want to take home, you can. But everybody else, every man, every female who's not a virgin, all the young boys, well, you put them to the sword, you kill them, but you just keep the little young virgin girls for yourself. That's okay, apparently.
Wait, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't. Okay.
Okay.
Hold on.
Have you read the Bible?
Yes.
I mean, have you read the Bible? What does the
Okay, yeah, you made some claims there that in war you can do X, Y, Z with the slaves. I'd like you to point that out that this is an ongoing allowance, and then because the thing is, if I'm not mistaken, that was maybe a command only 2 times, the Amalekites and the Canaanites, or maybe even a third. But I don't know if that's like, I'll retract my statement. I'm
I
going
guess
to
it's
double check.
okay then. Yeah, no, I guess it's fine then, Eden. If it was only a couple of times, then only a few thousand young virgin girls were taken as sex slaves under the command of the god. I guess that makes it okay, and his morals are perfectly intact.
Can you tell me where it says you can take the virgins and they now are sex slaves? Give us the verse for everyone in the room, so now we can get on your page, because either that's a true claim.
I can't remember the passage, but basically what it says is that you can take one of these virgins into your home, let her shave her head, and mourn her parents for a month. Then you go, and then you go into her, and go into her means to have sexual intercourse.
Yep. And if you're not pleased with her after 1 month, you must set her free. But if you are pleased with her, well, she's stuck with you. Even though you've just killed her family, disemboweled her parents in front of her, she's now got to put up with your fat, stinking, naked body on top of her for the rest of her life. That's a great system. But if you don't like her, you can set her free. She's no longer a virgin. So in the society, she's probably worthless now, or is going to find life a lot more difficult. But
Okay, I'd like the chapter and verse for these claims. Thank you.
Someone chat GPT it. It's not hard to find.
Well, I'm looking it up right now. It says the Bible does not say anywhere you can sleep with a virgin for sex without marriage. Were they married?
Okay, here's what you need to put. Where in the Bible does it say war captives shave their head, clip their nails? That'll do. It'll find it from there.
Okay, just give me a moment, but you guys can continue if you have any thoughts. I'd love to hear.
Sure.
I have some thoughts, but it's basically FYI. Like, if you don't know the doctrine of discovery, if you're not aware of index librorum prohibitorum, and other stuff.
No,
everything's inverted, in my opinion. Everything is inverted. So the Christian religion is the opposite of good.
Nah, I don't know. The Old Testament. What you'll find with Christians, I'll just quickly, like the Bible, the 66 books. That's their word of God. That's what everything. But I find personally, almost all the Christians that I engage with have so little knowledge or understanding of the Old Testament, because Christianity spends 95% of its time in the New Testament, because all they care about is the nice words of Jesus. But they won't connect the dots that in Christianity, Jesus is the God of the Old Testament. But the Old Testament God is fucking heinous in a lot of what he does. And their brain can't connect that Jesus is that God. So the Old Testament just kind of, it's there, and we'll tell the story of Noah's Ark and Samson and his long hair, and, the Genesis creation account, and a few other little ones that are in the children's Bible. But when you get into the nitty gritty shit, they actually don't know much about it, and they have to twist themselves into circles and spirals to try and make sense of it, like Stefan said, to try and somehow moralize the completely immoral.
Cognitive dissonance. You should listen to the Eden. You should watch the video I posted in live stream. It talks how all of those characters in the Bible, they're all just totally invented and made up, not real, fictitious. It's about a 1-minute video. I encourage you to watch that from Mr. Astrotheology.
Thank you, sir. How do you know that wasn't produced by the Jesuits?
Well, the
Bible is produced from the Jesuits. The New Testament is from the Jesuits.
Another thing is, what do the Bible
in the 15th century, if I'm not mistaken?
So, what does biblical scholars say about Moses?
Yeah, we can go to that. Can we just finish with the marrying a captive woman?
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
Okay, so I'll read it here. This is Deuteronomy 21 verses 10 to 14. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands, and you take captives, if you notice among the captives a beautiful woman and you are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife. So that means you can marry her. Does that say that you can just have sex with her?
Imagine, yes, it does. No? It also says after a month he can go into her. And what does that mean?
Wait, that's after I just finished the sentence. If you notice among the captives a beautiful woman and are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife. So that doesn't mean.
Imagine a big family with kids and parents, and everyone except the 14-year-old girl, which is a virgin, is spared. afterwards she has to marry the guy who killed the rest of her family. Don't you see the moral problem with this?
How do you know she has to? Because
that's what the fucking thing says. That's what it says.
She's a captive.
Yeah, but
look at Isaiah 13:16.
Yeah, but you guys are forgetting all about the rest of the laws. Deuteronomy, if you kept reading Deuteronomy 23 verse 15 says slaves who escape are not to be returned. So if you take everything in, like if you read the whole law, then
Hang on, Eden. You're in a totally different narrative here. You're pivoting around like your head's on a swivel. Stick to the one about the young girls captured from battle, captured from the nation that the Lord handed over to Israel. They take the girls home, shave their head, clip their nails, let them mourn for 30 days, and then what happens?
I don't see it. No, it doesn't say child here. It says woman. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands and you take captives, if you notice among the beautiful women,
Beautiful women, not the ugly ones, the beautiful ones, only the good-looking ones.
Just like you, if you go into war and you find a beautiful woman there and you want to marry her, that's what it says. You can marry her.
So okay, so here we go. So the woman, the beautiful woman, who's probably a young girl, if you look at the actual Hebrew word, she has no say in it. She's fucked. She's got to go with you. You've just killed her family, her tribe, her village, or whatever it is, and you get to drag her home by the hair, throw her in a tent for 30 days so she can go, boo-hoo-hoo, my family's dead, and then you go and have your way with her. And that's under the command.
Yeah, well, show me where it says you can take her by the hair and you can do that. It sounds like you're doing
it's hyperbole. It's hyperbole, man. It's just I'm making fun of the story.
If someone heard you say that, okay, imagine someone just heard you say someone naive and didn't read the book. They're going to say, "I could do that? I'm never touching that."
Eden, do you think these girls were happy about what was happening to them? Do you think they just said, "Yes, Mr. Finkenstein, take me with you, put me in your tent, and in 30 days come and sleep with me"? Do you think the girls were happy about what was happening? Really? Do you not think that they would have been trying to fight it tooth and nail? That they would have been distraught and just out of their brains with grief and confusion and fear? Because how do they know that you're not going to run a sword through them tomorrow? Like, have some empathy, bro. Put yourself back into those poor girls' positions.
I'm trying, and that's why I said if we kept reading, because it's not even much further. This is Deuteronomy 21, and I'm talking about Deuteronomy 23, which is literally just up the book. It says if a slave runs away, like if I marry a captive woman and she runs away, because you have to include everything. You can't just cherry pick. It's like going to the law book and saying, "This is."
What if she doesn't run away? What if she doesn't run away? What if she doesn't run away? What if she's too scared to run away?
Happy. If she doesn't run away, why would anyone who's not happy would run away? And they have laws that say anyone who runs away literally has to be given protection. They're not to be returned. If she runs away, that's literally up in the book. It says if the slave escapes, they are not to be returned. You have to find a new
coming to North America in the year 1820. Do you think every Negro American slave that didn't run away was happy? Is that what you really think? They didn't run away because they were happy?
Well, they probably didn't. That's the problem. These probably so-called wolves in sheep's clothing, or Christians, didn't tell the slaves that themselves belonged to God, and probably took advantage of them. But the Jews are the ones trying to convert the slaves into becoming Jewish themselves. They give them all the incentive. They'll give them no interest, and that's the thing. Yeah,
I got to tap out now. Anyone else want to take over? I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this one.
John,
I got to tap out now. Anyone else want to take over? I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this one.
John,
I'm going to be home in a minute.
Oh, okay, John. Thank you so much for your patience with me. But you know
what? No worries, buddy.
The fabric one day.
Yeah, we're on different paths on this one, and you're always up for a cordial conversation, Eden. I always appreciate that, mate. But I think I'm going to tap out on this one.
You're amazing, man. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone else.
It's kind of like how Percentage, that character, he comes in here, he's a Muslim and he defends Muhammad and his 6-year-old wife.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's important that is Christians and non-believers. We get these Muslims, they either become non-believers or Christians.
Yeah, and both are just as terrible, the way that people are treated.
Okay, so what's so terrible about Christianity, since you think it's the opposite of good?
Slavery.
I got some stuff to share with you, but...
Well, can I just say one thing about the last topic? Like, just the whole framing of going to war and like overtaking other people and whatever violence might have been involved, and then to start taking the girls as wives, like that to me is already corrupt. That concept. Now, if you really had to go, like you thought you were doing something good and you had to do some war to like stop some like people that were hurting other people, even like in the best case scenario, let's say you were really just trying to be a hero, you're trying to save these people if they were actively being harmed by others or something, or something like that, even if that was the case, like the best possible case scenario, which likely was not the case at all, but I'm just trying to give it the most like distance there. And then, even if you did that, it seems like the best thing you would do is just try to have, first of all, have everybody live, like don't kill anyone, ideally or whatever. But even if you had these women, like you would just maybe let them be in the society or whatever, and then just naturally find a man, that they attract to. Instead of like the soldiers have some kind of precedence, like, oh, you're our property now, I can take you. And the probably amount of rape that was going on was probably out of control. So I could only imagine. I mean, like, could you imagine if your whole family just got like John was saying, like killed or horrible violence, your whole way of life just got taken, and there's these men that are like, if they're already insane enough to be killing people, they probably have who knows what sexual issues, like probably endless sexual issues.
Well, look at Isaiah 13:16. That commands it.
So I'm just saying that whole premise is just to me like so highly corrupt that there's just no way that can even be morally right just right off the bat, just from even that framework, let alone if they were doing rape or or really keeping these women like captive or doing other abuse and stuff. That's even more intense if that was happening. But I'm just saying even just the base principle of it is just so like problematic, just right, karmically, spiritually, like on every level. And then to have some precedence that you're going to take these women and then kill the boys, like what that's just insane. If you were helping them, you would try to make them all survive and then just let them integrate into the society or whatever. You wouldn't be doing that stuff. That's like a whole kind of demonic thing. Ultimately, I would see it as.
Well, that's related to what I was trying to speak of earlier with the doctrine of discovery. It's a 15th and 19th century legal religious concept that European Christian powers used to justify claiming and governing lands inhabited by non-Christian peoples. I've been saying that discovery granted title to those lands. And then finally, the Vatican in 2023 formally repudiated the doctrine. So that's one thing. Now, this is people, organizations, right? And then you have Index Librorum Prohibitorum, which basically religious leaders of the times met to discuss and discuss what was to be included and allowed Christians to read, whether they were forbidden to print or read it or whatever, parts, whatever, of the texts and doctrines. And this is the problem I have is these organizations that are people.
Yeah, flawed people running flawed organizations.
Well, I mean, you'd think killing a family and raping the girl or taking her in for some, what is it called, wedlock?
Well, like if we saw that in a movie, which that's in movies, but if we watch that in a movie, like it's pretty crazy to watch, like in certain movies where they kind of depict that, it's like your stomach turns just thinking about things like that. So
yeah, slavery was happening well before like the Bible took place, and the people of who wrote the Abrahamic religion, there was slavery before that. So essentially,
why doesn't it just say like you should not? Why doesn't it just say like you should never have slaves? Respect your fellow man. Don't own other men. Love them. Don't hurt them. Don't beat them. Why wouldn't it just say all the truth stuff? Just like don't have slaves. It's wrong. Yeah,
it does say
properties.
Exactly. Respect them. Respect them as a person for their own.
And don't use this discovery doctrine to take over the lands and the deeds to the lands and do away with the peoples. It's like these religions we call Abrahamic are really the only ones I know of that require you to lose your faith in what you believed and came to know to be real and adopt this. But see, this is during this time frame, and this is people, right? And they were using this to justify their actions.
Okay,
that's the problems I have.
Yeah. So let's try to take one step at a time. Was there slavery before the Abrahamic religions? Anyone?
Probably, but it doesn't matter because
it does matter.
No, because if there was an all-knowing God, he should be. It would be so easy for him to say, just like Gio said, "Do not own other slaves."
Okay, I'm trying to get there, but we have to one step at a time, please. All I need is yes or no. Okay, was there slavery before the Abrahamic religion? Yes or no?
Very likely, yes.
Okay, do you think it was good or evil? Yes or you can
evil.
pick.
Evil.
Evil. Excellent. So evil slavery existed before the Abrahamic religion. Got it. Okay, let's continue. Let's say people want slavery. Let's say we create a version of slavery that everybody agrees there's going to be a boss. He's going to be compensated well and protected, and the employees are going to be compensated and protected and given all these benefits. Are you going to be? Do you really expect me to believe that God would say, "Let's ban slavery" when literally everybody would want that slavery? That doesn't make sense.
Why not? Why not? Why shouldn't he? I mean, today, everyone today, more or less, at least in the Western world, agree that slavery is evil. Why couldn't he, your God, tell people at that time, even though slavery existed, he could just put his hand on the throne and said, slavery is an evil thing, stop it.
Rivers of honey and wine. That's on the menu for that one. Rivers of honey and wine.
To be honest, I think for myself that when I'm dead, and then I don't know about it. So that's fine. I think that's my.
But we got.
I think that is the option I would choose.
Yeah. Which one would you choose? Because that was the original question. I think we all got excited, but
when it's over, it's over. I'm dead, gone. I don't exist anymore.
Lights out. But that's the one you would choose, or that's the one you currently believe?
Choose as well.
You would choose that? Lights out?
Yep. No worries after that. It's the simplest and best solution. Absolutely, not a single worry for eternity.
That's poignant. It's poignant, but that is the craving of the divine in a way. And well, there's one aspect that could be said, that that it wants to be everything it can't be. So if it's infinite life, it would want to experience death. If it's infinite love, it would want to experience hate. If it's infinite, etc. But if it can't not exist, then you're saying that is poetic and poignant. That this, it's almost sad though. And I'm not trying to give an idea that this source is oh, I'm so sad. I just want to not exist. But it's part of the spiritual journey, actually, that existential kind of thing. And I'm not trying to critique you for being in an existential thing, but that desire not to exist. I'm saying it's also poetic if you think of a divine that it always exists and therefore it wants to. There's some part of it that wants to just turn the lights up, but it can't, kind of thing. But then it creates to try to spend eternity.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's sad. It's the easiest solution. I mean,
that's
it's
not
impossible
sad
to imagine. But just try to imagine
all the skills you've developed and all of your wisdom. You would want.
Yeah, imagine all and the people that want to spend time with you.
Yeah, don't you want to still love your loved ones? See, in the
reincarnation, yeah, of course. But my mission,
and you get to keep incarnating with more.
When I die, my mission is finished. Then it's the next generation who has to take over and sort of keep my genes moving forward.
All right, but okay, I'm feeling like you're saying the one that you believe is the case. If you had a choice, this truly is your choice?
Yes, it is.
What about the last option, that it's just whatever you would think of as heaven, just absolute bliss? Let's say you didn't have to reincarnate, although people say that the souls want to. That's why we're here. We're not doing this just because we didn't want to in the first place. So I would say all of us wanted to come to Earth in the first place. I don't think any of us are victims or anything in that way. If we're talking from the soul level, but nonetheless, even if we don't even have that it's a whole journey that you have to progress through, even if we just have a pure heaven that's just bliss, whatever you would imagine, the best thing, just forever, whatever, love, light, every joy you could ever think, no pain, no suffering, etc. You would even not choose. You would choose lights out over the most positive heaven ever, where you have no expectations, you're totally free, and it's the most joyous thing ever. You would prefer lights out over that, or what do you think of that one?
Yes, I would. It's the simplest and easiest solution. Then there's absolutely no worries. There's no pain. There's absolutely nothing.
I'm kind of sad in a way, not for you, but with you, kind of, because you've developed yourself. You've developed all these skills. You have all kinds of, I'm sure, wisdom and knowledge and things you've explored and all of that skills, and that you would want to just have it all be over. I mean, I guess it's poignant in a way, you build a sandcastle and you let the castle get taken by the ocean, but I don't think that's what happens. I think you will continue on. I think you're eternal. I think we're all eternal. So I don't think we can die. Ultimately.
How about before lights out? What about before lights out? You get the 72 virgins for a couple of nights.
Well, in any type,
that wouldn't be too bad a way of dying, but I wonder how my missus would react.
Well,
how would your dog react, Steph? And who's going to walk it?
People say the one of the reincarnation and then the spirit world thing, and then people tapping into those memories of it, that 72 virgins idea. People say that when you're in that life between life, spirit world, basically, that if you want to, you can go to a little viewing area or a different little area in the spirit world, as it were. They say you are kind of floating in a way, the way they describe it, but you're not in a physical form. But they say you can show up as your physical form of any of your lifetimes. You can, anyways, it's very, but I guess for now, let's say it's just energy locations, but that you can go to a spot and then you can, almost like a holodeck, you can basically create an entire experience. So like, let's say you did want to have like an orgy or whatever, and you didn't want to worry about sexual transmitted diseases. You didn't want to worry about any consequences. Like, you can just create the scene, or you can have some help. They say sometimes too, from like the higher spirit guide. They can just create the scene like a holodeck. And then there you are with all of your orgy or whatever you want to do. Like, I mean, I guess there's something to that, as obviously like creation seems to love doing orgies, at least when it's doing it. So there's obviously something to that, but I don't know that it's everyone's like desire, because it's also kind of like crass and a little bit. It's not really like
Depends how
harnessing
old.
true love. It's not really harnessing
Depends.
love. It's just like sexual passion or whatever.
Yeah, I can
Well,
ask.
that depends how
I
old you are when you're talking in that context to do with desires. Do you want to go back to when you were younger, when you were virile?
Right, right.
What do
You want to be
say?
75 years old or 25? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Well, that's what they say. In the spirit world, you can do this. You can just create. You could be a 22-year-old strapping lad with 2 girls or whatever, whatever people's fantasies are, that you can just create it in that like almost like a holodeck type of thing.
Yeah, but your mind's young, but your mind's not knowledgeable like you are with my age, like an age that I am in my 60s. Like, I'm knowledgeable, but yet my desires, yes, that in the 20s. So can you have the best of both worlds? Be knowledgeable and get the pleasures?
We'll see. Gio, you must have spoken to someone that has experienced it, because a lot of the shit you said is exactly what I recall experiencing, including what I would call no gravity. That wasn't a thing.
No what?
Gravity.
Oh.
What's
Yeah,
gravity
people
got to do with it?
exactly. People describe in the spirit world, there's not a downward. You're kind of in like it's almost like it's hard to describe because it's a totally different. Like, to put it into
you wouldn't put aspects of this world in that context of gravity into the
It's
other.
not there. It's
Yeah,
not
there's
there.
not a gravity.
No pain, no doubt, no fear, no guilt, no. I mean,
exactly. That's how people describe it. There's no pain. There's no suffering. There's tons of just love, forgiveness,
and fun, dude.
And fun. Yeah.
Do I get
consciousness is like an infinite playground that is like it's the best thing ever forever, basically.
Dude.
Okay, that stuff's a bit personal, but I'm thinking like with my old car, am I going to be able to get to work on it and play with that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like let's say in the afterlife, you live this life now. Let's say in the afterlife, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to have that car back. I want to be young. I want to whatever. You can create that in this afterlife. It won't be the same as like a real lifetime, but it can feel and be as real as a real lifetime. Now then it makes it.
So I can have the car fully restored like it came straight from the factory. Wow, that'd be real. I'd like that.
That's what I'm saying.
You could do that for 1 billion cars over 1 billion years.
Yeah,
I think you would be a bit bored.
With your mind, you could say, I want to put this different exhaust on it, and then it's just on it. And then you can say, okay, I want to be a 22-year-old. I want to be my 22-year-old self getting in the car. It's 12 noon on September 6th, whatever. Anyways, yeah, it's like basically anything your mind wants to experience and create. And I guess anyone would hope that like a heaven that is amazing would have this, where.
What about the psychopaths then? Would they be able to do whatever they like?
From what people report, again, from the spirit world, basically no one is a psychopath in the spirit world. That doesn't exist. This is all love, and it's all our highest selves, basically. So even if someone was a psychopath or a murderer or a rapist, something really bad, maybe they died in prison or whatever, when they die, they're back to their soul form, and they won't be a psychopath. Our souls are not psychopaths.
So basically, your memories and stuff like that is basically erased.
No, it's all with you. It's all with you. Every detail, even in more detail right now of what you know of your life in the spirit world, like it's claimed that like you have every single detail and memory of your entire life. And people say when you die,
that means the bad things. You bring along the bad things, the sad things as well. Then.
Well, there's no sadness in that soul state, but you are aware of every memory you've had in all of your lives, like a holodeck, basically, because it's way more advanced than the human mind. So yeah,
if you remember, like your parents die and things like that, you bring those memories with you, but they don't have an impact. That's what you're saying.
Well, okay, so if there's this afterlife where you're in like your soul state, basically, you're in your soul. So okay, one of the ways it's described, again, these are from people having these regression sessions where they're reporting it, and I'm also speaking from some of my own thoughts too, but I'm just giving you some of the ideas. That basically you have all the memories of all your lifetimes. You agree to go into all the lifetimes. You're aware of like where you're at with some of your issues and things, and then there's other spirit guides there, and so on. And then there's no like, what was the last thing you said? Well, there's no psychopaths, because when you're in your soul state, like you're cleansed of all of your sort of like sins and all of your wrongdoings. Like all of that is put on pause, basically, in a way.
That would mean you change personality then, wouldn't it?
Well, they also describe it that our souls actually have like a personality to them, but it's not one human personality. But they do describe it like different, like souls do have like certain, like some are like a little bit more like mischievous. Like, I don't know, they do kind of describe that. Some are like more risk taking than others. But yeah, you wouldn't really be like your human persona, but your human persona now, the essence of it would be your soul in this idea, you know, like your personality now.
That means personalities. That means personalities would be more uniform then.
Well, like you have your genetics. So like I have my body type and where I was born and how I speak. You guys have yours and all that, but there's like a personality related to the genetics, maybe like the way we talk, like our parents or whatever. But that part doesn't
How about the
maintain.
idea of the
You still
afterlife?
have the memory of your whole personality though. Like the idea when you die, who you were in this life, you'll have that personality like embedded into your like soul. So it's not like that goes away, but you're more of your pure essence, not like the human body with your accent and, you know, male, female, you know, that we have right now. So like some part of that, it's still held as a memory in the body, but it's not like how you continue talking in your mind, you know?
So you can be a comedy type person, you can be a smart ass or whatever, but as long as you don't have the other traits of the other stuff, yeah.
How about the idea that there are clairvoyants and they can talk to the spirits and they can even talk to your ancestors or your loved ones? And all of the testimonies that I've ever watched, they don't claim to be in heaven. They just claim to be somewhere together with the loved ones, and they say, the clairvoyant says, oh, so and so says hello, and they're fine, and they're together with the rest of your family or whatever, and they just say hello, and they're waiting for you on the other side or whatever. But I've never heard them say, yeah, we're up here with Jesus and God, and there's lots of golden streets, and we're like, wearing robes like we're in Israel. They never say stuff like that.
Clothes are optional.
Well, I'm kind of just hyped up on talking about this, so I know I'm kind of excited, but I'm just posting right quick. Oh wait, that's way too big of a link. Oh, that did link it though. So I just wanted to, this book would be enough to kind of, anyone who is interested, and I'm not even saying you have to be interested or anything. It's just at your own, if you choose to look into it. Michael Newton, he's a PhD and all that. He wrote, this was like one of his first books, Journey of Souls, Case Studies of Life Between Lives. And then he has like a bunch of other books. And if anyone's interested, they could obviously find all of this stuff. But that's just, since I brought it all up, and Stefan, I appreciate you hearing out some of the ideas of it. Yeah, that's one of the original books that he does a really good job. And in the book, there's the actual like transcripts that you're reading of the actual back and forth between him and the client. So you can literally read, you know, what's claimed to be word for word of what they actually said to each other for the whole thing. So you can kind of, you know, if you think he's leading them on, you could detect that. Or if you think he's just being neutral, you could detect that. I think he's being pretty neutral, although at times he may lead to a degree. And that could be a criticism. You know, if you're looking at it from the, like, is this real or not? You could imply that maybe there, you know, if there is any leading going on, that would be one thing you'd have to consider.
But those shows, those clairvoyants that can talk to the spirits on the other side, they can tell you stuff that there's no way they can possibly know about your family. Some small details, they can talk to the other side, and that's just proof of you know, that there's somewhere that you go when you die.
Let me if you
It's
guys
not
don't
just
mind,
lights out.
I know I'm kind of on one right now, but just right following that, because I'm just going to read this real quick and then I'll kind of pull back. But okay, this is what he is claimed. Again, he's just taking these people through these where he puts them into a very relaxed mind state and then they report what they're experiencing and so on. All these, and they're different people from different walks of life. But this is like the categories. It says, through their extraordinary stories, you'll learn specifics about how it feels to die, what you see and feel right after death, the truth about spirit guides, what happens to disturbed souls, why are you assigned to certain soul groups in the spirit world and what you do there, how you choose another body to return to Earth, the different levels of souls, beginning, intermediate, and advanced, when and where you first learn to recognize soulmates on Earth, and then the last one is the purpose of life. That's quite a dramatic one to end with. But anyways, that's kind of some of the what it's claimed, you know, what people report answers basically to all those questions.
And does any of what you've just talked about have any reflection together with Eastern mysticism or Taoism or Buddhism in any way? And if so, is that more related than like Christianity or Islamic religion?
I think so, yeah. And also with the psychedelics, that's the case as well. When people do psychedelics, it tends to align a lot more with the Eastern concept that like we're all one, for example. Like even that word entheogenic, that people use, like entheogen instead of psychedelic. So the word entheogen, it's like three parts, entheogen. So gen is like, it can be seen as like generating. And then theo, Theo, the middle part is like basically the divine or God or the creator. And then en is within. So it's basically like, it could be translated as like generating the divine within, or like awakening the divine within, or awakening, even if you don't use the word divine, like awakening God within, any sort of transfer of those. So what I'm saying is that these entheogens, they tend to just naturally take people through a process where they become more and more aware of like the unity of all of creation, basically, and that we're really all one ultimately, and so on, and like that awakening, which does align a lot more with the Eastern ones. But some people do see Jesus, and some people do have a Christian associated experience. And I do think Jesus is like a real spirit being. That's a very advanced being. That's very real. That's like as real as Shiva or any of the other ones. Like he's very real and healing. So I think like there's that positive part of it. But yeah, the reincarnation part and all that, it does seem to align a lot more, like all those parts with the Eastern. And then the psychedelics do that. And then also like even people doing the breath work where they're just breathing tends to also, so they're not even taking a substance, they're just using breath. And that also, they go into these past lives and have much more of like the way the Eastern tradition refers to it as reincarnating, and then like going through the wheel of like, kind of suffering and rebirth, and like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, for example, that describes the afterlife and how to transition. So they have like entire, practices like connected to understanding all these things.
Do you think when the Chinese Christians die, they go to see a Chinese Jesus, or is he like an Abrahamic Jesus? Because like you'd think that they'd get along a little bit more if he was Chinese as well.
That's an interesting question. If you're into Christianity, when you die, do you actually connect with Jesus for a minute, on your way to the spirit world? I don't know, man. I don't think the Christian afterlife is, well, at least some of the ones that describe like is actually what is true, because is there a real afterlife that is a thing, or do we all have a different one, or is there one, objective one, and which one's the right one? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're going back to New Jerusalem. I believe in the Christian world. You're going back to God.
Well,
that's where the Chinese want to go, right? They want to go to Israel.
Well, if it can't be no reincarnation, okay, if it's either no reincarnation or reincarnation, meaning in some way your soul comes back in a new life, either that does or doesn't happen. So what do you guys think the truth is of that? Is it's because it's a binary, basically.
Reincarnation?
Is that or not? Yeah. Is that a truth that exists, or is it not, do you think?
I think it exists.
I have experienced anamnesis. I was trying to fit in kindergarten, and the youngins were counting on their fingers, and I didn't know how to count my fingers, but I knew the answers. So I just like wrote the answers on the board, and there was several things that I seemed to have knowledge of, but I don't recall how I learned it.
You remembered it.
Yeah, it's a recollection. The best word I found is the original Greek meaning anamnesis, Anamnesis. Anamnesis.
Sounds like amnesia.
Yeah, it's like the opposite.
The opposite of amnesia.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the word called?
Anamnesis, or we would call it anamnesis in America, I believe. Anamnesis. Yeah, Anamnesis. Nesis.
Nemesis.
Anemnesis. Yeah. Or I learned it as anamnesis, so it's, whatever. I don't know.
Another thing, sorry, you guys are on a slightly different thing, but I was looking at that Amazon page, and it says that also another factor about these people that do this, that do these life between life regressions, is that some of them were religious, like they believed in a certain religion. And then it says some of them were non-committed. So just like, and then it says, and those in between. So anyways, I just think that would be another interesting marker to like have people do this from a wide range of different, beliefs, and then isolate for that factor. Because like what I've heard of in this, like there's some Christians that were devoted Christians, but then they had one of these sessions, and then they, for themselves, like they claim that they like reconnected with the memories that they do reincarnate, for example. So then they start to somewhat like question those parts of Christianity. Not that they throw it all out, but they just question those parts. So it can even be like that. kind of life changing. That for people who experience it, they refer to it like they're reconnecting with their actual memories, not that they just made something up for an hour, and then because it sticks with them afterwards too, like the
What is that, like past life regression?
yeah, we were talking about that before. Yeah, it's like there's a life between life regression where they regress you essentially to the spirit world, to like your life between lives, and then there's also the past life regression, and they're both kind of connected. Yeah.
In the book of Revelations, there's a line that says, "The rest of the dead will not live until after the millennial reign." And there's some of us that believe that they could be people being reincarnated that didn't accept Christ or didn't get a chance to hear of him, so they do get a second chance. Now, whether that's the case or not, I don't know, but that is one interpretation of that. And just while I have a minute, back to the past regressions. My grandpa was a hypnotist, and my dad told me a story about him hypnotizing some guy and brought him back to a past life. And he was a woman, and they went and researched it. They found the town, they found the woman, how she died. She died the same way that the guy said they died. And my dad watched all this apparently, so it's all third hand for me. But yeah, I just thought I would share that. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
appreciate that. What are your thoughts about? There's the claim that the original Christian mystics that reincarnation was part of it. What do you think about that too? But go ahead.
No, I think there's some interpretations that we keep reincarnating until we come to Christ or come to God. That's the end of the play or whatever.
I can tell you that something I felt strong and like woke up in the middle of the night and just said, to my wife for no apparent reason, is I've got to get it right this time. And from that moment on, I've been trying to be more willing to recognize me, the flaws in me, and address them accordingly to the best of my ability. But I got help, my home team, and good company.
For sure. Well, LearnShare, what do you think the afterlife is? Do you think it's like freedom from all your suffering and it's like bliss and amazing, or some of the stuff? Like, do you think there's reincarnation? Do you think it's like the Christian, some of those ideas, or something in between, or do you think it's lights out, or like? And then also the question, if you want to answer it too, like what Eden asked earlier, like which one do you think is the case? But then also, which one would you prefer? If we're still on that topic, but I'm just still thinking about it.
Well, I would like to start with, I definitely feel like I chose this willingly.
Okay, so you feel like you chose to be here before you incarnated?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. I think we all do. Yeah, we agree to it.
Not to mention, it adheres to the tales, which they're called tales of elders, and mainly my great grandpa about when the spirit enters the body, etc. And so it's like recognizing more and more of me, but secondly,
Do you think you knew? Hold on, can I just say, do you think you knew all of your life before you incarnated, or were you just given little flash images of it, or were you given none of it? Like, what is your thought on that? Like, how? Because you mentioned that already.
Yeah, I've had experiences of prescience, or most people call it precognition. It's not under my control. I can't just sit there and say, what's this going to be, or what's the lottery numbers going to be, or nothing like that at all. Just in moments, I guess, either it's my greater conscious that's aware, or spirit guides, or guardian angels, or however you want to word it. I've had help. And
yeah, so they planned the life and then you agreed to it, type of thing, or to that level?
I was given an opportunity.
Okay, and then you agreed to it, but
yes,
you didn't know all about it.
No,
yet?
no. I mean, like, when I was extremely young, I was extremely confident. And that's
Do you think?
when I had. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'm getting antsy.
Well, yeah, when I was 7 years old is when the big experience I had that helped me recognize that most people don't see or hear or experience the things that I do. And I'd be careful about bringing it up who I can talk to about it. But now that we're in here discussing this, you're hitting so close to home, it's like you must know someone that's experienced these things.
Everyone's going to experience it, at least according to scripture. It says we're going to be called one by one.
That is pretty interesting. That whole concept, yeah, and I think that's like in a lot of different traditions as well. Like that, there's some kind of like reaching some kind of ultimate state. I would,
You
I
think
mean,
some,
that's the best case scenario because there's a lot of suffering that goes on. But if we're ultimately going to reach some kind of, go ahead, it's kind of really high state.
yeah,
Oh, I'll
thinking,
be birthed with amnesis word.
Anamnesis. Yeah, anamnesis.
It says, "But the Counselor, the Holy Spirit, will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance." I think that's the word. All that I have said to you.
Yep. Recall, remember.
do you think someone who made many evil decisions in their life, when they leave their body, now they're in an innocent state, and then they could righteously decide what they did was right and wrong?
Well, see,
When
that's
it's
where
set, when they
these
separate
views
from
are
the flesh.
different. There may be a different, if someone else was getting in, but just if you lived one life and then there was one judgment and then there was like certain beliefs you had to have to kind of get through, that is a very different view, like very different than the idea that there's like a spirit world and reincarnation and stuff. Because spirit world one is that like that's like a team that's trying to help you basically, and they have all your best interests, and you're like eternal. You're totally welcome. You're infinitely supported and loved there. There's no, you can't be attacked. You can't be now there's the idea that there's demons like in other parts, like in the underworld, or maybe even like what ghosts are. Like a ghost would be like where there's like a demonic. So that's all different. That's all like on the table for dark stuff to exist. But up in the actual spirit world, as it were, yeah, there's like no suffering at all. So that one is like, and then you have like as much time as you need to just keep learning and just keep growing and heightening your soul's ability to learn new things and advance yourself. And it's like an infinite fun journey where you're supported, even though the lives can be intense. Like a life, you can have all kinds of suffering in a lifetime. That and they even say that like the higher spirit guides, like they have compassion for us. Like they know like how much courage you have to do to even incarnate, how much courage it takes to even take on a human life because of all this challenges and everything. So anyways, those are just very different. One of them you have to like get through the gates, the pearly gates, I guess. And then there's like the whole Christian, like the judgment and stuff as well. Whereas the other one is like you have basically as much chances as you need, but you'll keep getting like karma coming back to you in a negative way if you keep doing a negative thing. So eventually you'll want to change. But I'm just saying those are, but maybe I'm not depicting the Christian one correctly, or if someone else wants to clarify like how they're different, but I'm just giving like the general outline of it.
Yeah. So I know the ancient Egyptians, I think they talked about like the scale of truth. So there's some sort of judgment there. But for the Christians, I think, yeah, there's some sort of righteous judgment from maybe an unbiased judge, the creator of the universe. And that would be different from someone judging themselves. And let's say if it was the reality that someone judges themselves, they would have to maybe separate themselves from their evilness so they can make a righteous call. I don't think someone evil judging themselves is going to make a fair decision about their actions. Do you know what I mean?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And my understanding, like, is that the way it would work, or at least one idea, is that once you die, all of your like sins, your evil, all of that is like basically cleansed and like, let's just say put on hold for the moment. It's all put on hold. And then the way people describe it is that when you're in your like soul state, like you do actually have like a much more pure, like a more pure kind of clear-headed awareness of things that are wrong. Whereas when you're in the body, it's more difficult because you're kind of in the human thing and you have to deal with like,
Yeah.
the cravings of the body and the physical and all of the
And the
temptations.
pain. And
Yeah.
the pain.
But anyway, so from that state that you are kind of like a really good judge, but then I think they also say that like there's like spirit guides that can kind of help you see as well. So I think there's implied that there is kind of like these higher beings that are also there to kind of assist you in it. Cause yeah, like you're saying, I mean, cause I hear what you're saying. If someone's like a psychopath and they're like killing people and then they're like, oh, let me judge myself. No, I think it's okay. Then that's the problem, Like,
Yes,
so yeah,
definitely.
there would have to be some kind of like truth and sort of reflection of going on that you'd have to
Yeah.
kind of be aware of like, oh, let me try better in that next life, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess once you're in the life though, then like, oh, you have that, like let's say I brought up the example earlier of like somebody cheating on a loved one, like that whole thing. People cheat, they get cheated on, it's a whole back and forth. And eventually people learn don't cheat, and then they don't get cheated on and then it's resolved. So yeah, like if you were in that state where you keep incarnating into lifetimes, you keep cheating and then you die and you're like, oh, I did it again. Like, like, oops, I did it again kind of thing. And then you're like, all right, this next life, I really want to work on it. And then it's described that eventually, like, we work through these things, but that's just one way of seeing it. I'm not trying to like say that anyone has to outwardly agree or anything like that. I'm just kind of giving a lot of that's coming from like the work that's been done in this kind of field, but then just kind of putting the idea out there as a kind of just a stream of ideas to consider.
For sure. Yeah, it's been fun chatting and considering all these options with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, do you
think
think that's possible that in your soul state, you'd have a higher form of your own judgment to realize that you'd still need to improve in certain ways?
I can see that as possible. Yeah.
Yep.
What you were going to say,
And
Lawson?
infinite.
Wouldn't we hope that
yeah.
even that we would
Yeah.
need that good in the afterlife. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's like an infinite journey of individualization. Some people call it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think we don't even necessarily need to leave our body to become that pure again. Essentially, we can take in information, use that information as a purity standard, and now we can make a righteous judgment without having to leave our body. Just something to consider.
Well, what do you think of the idea that so do you think there is like something that you would call a spirit world? I mean, anyone can what your thoughts are, but if there is one, um
Yeah, if there's, does it like, how does it interact with us, or how does it interact with the afterlife, or because I do believe in the spirit world after some research.
Me too.
Oh, I think okay, here's what I was going to say. Okay, so if you do think there's a spirit world, what do you think of the idea that our souls are actually there right now, and that's where, like, if you were to say like the bulk of our soul is in a way, and then what do you think of the idea that we're there like eternally, essentially, like we haven't really left there, we're still there. The way like holographically you can have the part in the whole and all that. And it is almost like that idea of like a surrogate body or something, but not going to that level, not like a transhumanistic thing. But what I'm asking is, what do you think of the idea that our soul is in the spirit world, like in its completely glorious eternal self, like totally, like always in its peak form in that, or whatever, in that sense. And then we take just a part of our energy to then go incarnate in a lifetime. And then when we die, it's not like we're really going back there from here. We're just rejoining with like more of our totality. What do you think of that idea, or anything in relation to that? Do you think any of that could be happening, or is not happening, or anything related, or even if you have a different way of wording it?
I think that's
Real
one
quick,
way
let
to
me
look at
chime
it.
in here. Real quick, let me chime in here. I just want to point out that the Jewish lore behind that sleep, we go back to the spirit world and confess our sins to the king. And then when we wake up, we come back. So just thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, nice. That's beautiful. That's interesting.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know about the king thing. What does that mean, though? Like someone who's above you, or are you just confess, or is it like just like a becoming aware of your wrongdoings, or is it like an authority thing where you have to confess to this king? And then is there like an or else thing? Like if you don't confess, he'll do something, or is it not? Is that not part of it?
Well, they believe that judgment is a lot like a courtroom, and that there's the father is the judge, the son is basically your attorney, and then there's the adversary as a prosecuting attorney. So you go up there and basically you confess your sins to your attorney, and then he either blots them out, or I'm not sure exactly. That's what the Jewish lore is. That's what the Jews believe. So I just thought it was relevant to the conversation. So thank you.
Well, I've got some experiences that I kept questioning. I kept going into these experiences, asking why. Eventually, I got I got sort of blocked out. So I had a lot of like just blank, dark experiences, and I got to thinking that it's almost like we are. Say there's one unified divine aspect of conscious intelligence. So if that thing wants to experience itself, it has to carve off facets, aspects of itself, so that it can view itself from the outside. I get that. What you're saying, Jerry?
I'm glad I'm not the only one breaking down and sharing stuff that I don't get to.
Well, is there any? So what? Okay, so Eden, did you respond on that? Whether you think that like our soul exists in the spirit world, or eternally, and then just a part of us comes here, or do you think like our whole part comes here, or like how do we exist between these worlds in your view, the physical and then this beyond?
Oh yeah, thanks for the question, Joe. I think our this is the spirit world. I think there might be more, like another underworld below the earth, maybe in Sheol, and then another spirit above the earth and maybe above the dome in heaven. And so in this spirit world, I think we have, like you said, yeah, the epitome of God's creation, the human man and woman. And then when we die, I think our spirit leaves the body and then can either go, I think eventually I'm still researching. Are we going to go to a sleep until that new like Earth, where all the corruption is taken care of through God, and then we can have a new place where all the spirits that chose to follow God will inhabit the Earth? I think that's the story in the Bible. I'm still verifying, but there's another claim in the Christian community that if I were to die tomorrow or tonight, or later today, that potentially we would go to heaven above. So I'm still exploring those as well. But I hope that answered. But I like how the way you put it, because that seems close to what I believe.
You might awaken though. Ephesians says, "Awake, O sleeper, arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light."
Yeah.
I think everyone's
Nice.
like putting too many human characteristics to the afterlife. I think you're going to go to a place and you may be reincarnated again, but I doubt that it's somewhere so primitive like a human characteristic, sort of a ambiance.
Thank you.
Have you ever?
That's something I was wanting to share.
Well, can I just ask real quick? Well, sorry, were you going to bring up something different? I was going to go just real quick a DMT route, but just before, can I just go quick then, just to say, Carlos, have you ever done DMT? You don't have to answer if you don't want, but because everyone has different experiences, but you can enter this like timeless realm, and so a lot make a link that the spirit world is like that, where there's just like this eternal now moment.
You can I've done that with meditation.
Yeah, you can access it with other ways too. Meditation can do basically everything if you're good at it, or if you can get your brainwaves in a really low state. That can be like actually one of the most powerful. Have you been able? You've had some powerful meditation experiences?
I mean, I've been able to kind of let go of time, and you know how like when you're having fun, they say time flies. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's like almost like time stops in a way, and then you're just in this like zone.
Right. So I was
You
trying
can
to
also
focus on
have
like peace and love. So I was just experiencing that, and it felt kind of like, yeah, it kind of felt like timeless, and it felt real quick at the same time. And then when I woke out of it, it was like an hour or two, you know?
Did it feel like home or like very familiar?
Yes, like relief.
Because some people like what I'm referring to as well, like it's this, like it feels like this eternal home that's like extremely familiar, like even more familiar than, you know, like now in a lifetime where let's say you come home, you open your front door, you go inside, everything's totally familiar, you know, the food in the fridge, you've got whatever going on, you know, where it's just completely familiar. That's like a human level of familiar. Or let's say you see your family members or whatever. But the way like this state is that I'm referring to, where because I think it's just like the liminal threshold to what the afterlife might be. There might just be this. There's like this in between where you can access. Well, DMT you can actually access all kinds of things, but there's even the one I'm talking about is not necessarily even a high dose one though. It can be done on even like more medium doses or even lower doses in some cases. Although maybe more like medium. But you can just enter this state where it's like eternal. It's timeless in a way, but like all time exists there. So it's not like time like went anywhere, but it's like all contained there. And it's like this eternal now moment. And it feels like very, very ancient and very familiar. Like the familiarity, like I was saying before, of like coming home to your own house